Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Today's Wednesday, October 9, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network. We're live in Philadelphia at Sharon Baptist Church. More conversations about the election. We are less than 30 days away, and of course, this state is a significant one, a major battleground state. So we'll be unpacking what's happening here. Also, we'll be joined by the leader of Higher Heights, which is focused on electing Black women to office, Glynda Carr. She'll join us as we talk about what they are doing when it comes to this election. Also, Hurricane Milton is bearing down on Central Florida. Moments ago, President Joe Biden talked from the White House about that. We'll carry that for you to let you know what's happening with the hurricane as well. Plus, we'll talk about the battle going back and forth again between the candidates. And also, we'll talk about what's happening with the senatorial races, because that also is critical, and also House races, because that will determine who controls the House and the Senate. If Democrats regain the control of the House, that means Hakeem Jeffries will become the first Black Speaker of the House in U.S. history. Folks, it is time to bring the funk right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time, and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, we're here at Sharon Baptist Church in Philadelphia, our second stop of a three-stop tour in Pennsylvania. Tomorrow will be at Lincoln University doing the show there where they got a homecoming, and so look forward to being there. We had a great show last night, lots of conversation we want to talk about tonight, but first, Hurricane Milton is causing significant issues all up and down Florida. There have been evacuations over the past 48 hours. It's expected to hit landfall on Thursday. And we're still talking about a Category 3 when it hits land. As somebody who's lived through several hurricanes, born and raised in Houston, folks cannot play any games with it. This is the back-to-back hurricanes. Just had Hurricane Helene that wreaked serious havoc in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina as well. A few moments ago, President Joe Biden addressed the nation talking about their preparations for Hurricane Milton. This is what he had to say.
Within a few hours, Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall on the west coast of Florida, the western coast of Florida. Already we're seeing impacts from the storm, including significant winds and heavy rain. And there's also been frequent and widespread tornado warnings throughout the day, and they're continuing and expected to expand as Milton moves over land, including a few that have already touched down in South Florida. Currently, Milton is a Category 3 with wind speeds up to 120 miles per hour. But no one should be confused. It's still expected to be one of the most and worst destructive hurricanes to hit Florida in over a century. You know, both the heads of the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service made it very clear in conversations I've had with them earlier today. Milton still carries incredible destructiveness, can wipe out communities, can cause loss of life. Storm surge is still expected to be up to 13 feet, So I urge everyone in Hurricane Milton's path to listen to local officials and follow all the safety instructions they give. At this point, evacuation is probably difficult. So I encourage people to look for safer shelter. Sometimes moving just a few miles can mean the difference between life and death. We've already approved emergency declarations for Florida. We have thousands of federal personnel on the ground. We've staged and are ready to go. We have 20 million meals, 40 million liters of water. At my direction, the Secretary of Defense, Austin, has pre-positioned search and rescue teams, helicopters, and high water speed vehicles as close to the storm as possible, so they're ready to conduct life-saving missions. And the administrator of FEMA will be on site tonight in Florida and in the state's Emergency Operations Center. Both Administrator Criswell and I will be in constant contact with state and local officials in the hours ahead. Once the storm hits, we're going to work with state officials to clear debris, restore power, and do it as fast as possible. The Army Corps of Engineers will pump out water and decrease flooding. We've already directed the Department of Defense to be ready to provide active duty service members to support Florida after the storm surge if Governor DeSantis requests the help, which I expect he might, just like we did in North Carolina. I have surged over 1,000 U.S. Coast Guard personnel to perform search and rescue missions and reopen the port of Tampa as soon as possible. Now, I want to reiterate a point I made clear earlier today to the folks who have been impacted by Helene. This impact, and will be now impacted by Milton. Over the last few weeks, there's been reckless and irresponsible and relentless promotion of disinformation and outright lies about what's going on. It's undermining confidence in the people in Florida and incredible rescue and recovery work that has been undertaken. Literally, there are thousands of fellow Americans who are putting their lives at stake and putting on the line to do the dangerous work that needs to be done now. And it's harmful to those who most need the help. Quite frankly, these lies are un-American, and there is simply no place for them. Not now, not ever. Former President Trump has led this onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. That's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That is simply not true either. They're saying that money needed for these crises are being diverted to migrants. What the heck are they talking about? Stop it. It's outrageous. It's just not true. Now, the claims are getting even more bizarre. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman from Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's got to stop. Let me close with this. As difficult as these days and weeks have been, we've seen incredible courage by so many of our fellow Americans. I want to thank all the first responders for running toward danger instead of away from it, for saving lives and making a difference. FEMA personnel risking their lives, climbing on hillsides to reach people who cut off by Helene. Army National Guard flying through the gale wind force that it's amazing what they're doing. Firefighters lifting collapsed wood and metal in an attempt to see if there are survivors, any survivors under the debris, risking their lives. Coast Guard teams rappelling from helicopters to rescue people and risking their own lives. And there are countless friends and neighbors who have sacrificed for the greater good. Volunteers leaving their own families behind to help search for someone else's family. Fellow Americans looking out for one another. That's America at its very best. That's who we are. So my final message tonight is to the people of Florida and all the impacted states. We've got your back. We've got your back. And Kamala and I will be there for as long as it takes to rescue, recover, and rebuild. May God bless you all, and may God protect those serving in the eye of this storm on behalf of our nation. Thank you.
Why do you think Trump is spreading misinformation? Why do you think former President Trump has sent testing kits to President Putin during the height of the pandemic? Do you have a comment, sir? Why do you think Trump is...
Un-American.
Why do you think Trump is spreading misinformation?
I don't know. I simply don't know. You can speculate, but I just find it, I've used the phrase more than I've used it ever in my whole career, un-American. It's un-American. It's not who the hell we are. What are they talking about?
Sir, have you considered calling him and asking him to stop doing that? To stop spreading it?
Oh, come on.
Mr. President, does Governor DeSantis need to take Vice President Harris's calls?
All I can tell you is I'm talking to Governor DeSantis. He's been very gracious. He's thanked me for all we've done. He knows what we're doing, and I think that's important.
Can you say that Florida has everything it needs for the storm? How was your call with Netanyahu today?
We didn't talk about the storm.
Earlier today, Vice President Kamala Harris called into CNN and the Weather Channel as well, talking about this and urging folks to actually evacuate from these storm areas. I want to go to my panel. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center, Derek Jackson, State Representative out of Georgia. Right there, Rebecca, I think is part of the problem that we see so often during this campaign. Something happens, and then whether it's President Biden or Vice President Harris, they are being asked to respond to something stupid that Donald Trump says or does, as opposed to keeping the focus on what the actual issue is. And you saw President Biden literally say several times, it's stupid what these conservatives are out here doing, even suggesting that this is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, that the Democrats can control the weather. And then, matter of fact, I saw someone on social media who literally said, somebody posted on social media, is it weird that the hurricanes only hit red states? These are truly some dumb people, Rebecca.
Roland, one thing that I wish that President Biden would have taken the time to do in that press conference was actually directly talk to Congressman Mike Johnson and ask him to bring the House of Representatives back in session. Because one thing that we do know of the FEMA budget this year, I believe only $191 billion was actually finally agreed to and passed, when we know as of 4 days ago, the total projected costs for Hurricane Helene had already toppled over $200 billion already, and that was 4 days ago. And we know it's going to continue to escalate. And then we have Milton right behind it. So right now we know that there isn't enough money that's being allocated by the Congress to actually fill FEMA's coffers. And we know there's going to have to be some emergency spending bills. So I do wish that President Biden would have taken that time to say, hey, Congress, come back to town and do your job. We have a national crisis. But to your point, one thing that we are seeing from former President Trump is that he is using every opportunity to turn this into a political football when we actively have thousands of people in the mountains of North Carolina who are still missing. We still have water, fresh water and potable water needed in North Carolina. And then we're watching, unfortunately, what's happening now in Florida. But one thing that I will say that I'm seeing from the work that we're doing in Florida is we're seeing so many young people who scrambled right before the deadline to get registered to vote because they're watching. They see what's happening. They see a governor and they see a former President Trump denying climate science. They see a J.D. Vance saying, oh, this is junk, it's not real. But then they're literally dealing with the impacts of climate change as it's unfortunately getting ready to ravage Florida.
Derek, U.S. State Representative in Georgia, and if you want to see how nuts these folks are, 68 Republicans in the legislature voted against even taking up the bill that would have extended voter registration back from mail-in ballots as well as the deadline to vote. Do they not understand that if you are bracing for a hurricane, the last thing you're thinking about is trying to go register to vote? You're trying to batten down homes. You're trying to leave. You're trying to secure all sorts of safety precautions. This, to me, makes no sense.
not only does it not make any sense, Roland, when you think about dealing with a hurricane, as I have had during my 22 years in the Navy, the last thing you're thinking about is where do I need to vote and how do I vote? You're thinking about preserving your life, preserving your homes, your livelihood. Listen, 213 folks have died, Roland. This is the gravity of this situation. 213 citizens have died. Cities have been wiped out up there in North Carolina, in Florida, been devastated, right? We're talking about the loss of homes. And so where you got President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, where they're responding, they're not only responding to the need of citizens, because this is not the time to think about political party. And so it doesn't matter if that state is a red state or a blue state. You're seeing President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, they're picking up the phones. They're talking to Republican governors. And oh yeah, by the way, these Republican governors basically saying how Trump is lying, right? How they're, and so these Republican governors are coordinating with the Biden-Harris administration to make sure that the needs and the welfare of their citizens are being taken care of. And then now we have Hurricane Milton on the heels of Hurricane Helene. And so here in Georgia, as you well know, Roland, back in 2017, we had to use $275 million to help rural Georgia. We weren't thinking about, if this is a Republican or Democrat citizen. This was the life that we are required to help and protect and serve. And so that's the reason why this situation is so serious, and we don't have time to keep running down these various rabbit holes that Trump keeps sending us down.
And, of course, when you look at the damage from the hurricane, we talk about to the Georgia agricultural economy, North Carolina, is already in excess of $1 billion in terms of it's going to be lost in terms of pecans and other fruits, vegetables, you name it. And so you're right. And then, of course, you had the Speaker of the House who says he's not going to call Congress back into session. They literally are on vacation. But you're talking about a 5-week time period off. To me, it's not hard to actually call them back. To be able to bring them in to actually approve additional funding. But I can guarantee you, if Hurricane Milton wipes out a whole lot of stuff in these Republican districts, then you're going to see folks crying and wailing about resources. And then let's see if they start calling on members to come back in session in order to approve the money. So we'll see what happens there. Hold tight 1 second. Going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about this election and how all of this impacts what takes place over the next some 28 days. It is a lot going on, and we'll break it all here in Philadelphia at Sharon Baptist Church. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here in the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
He told us who he was.
Should abortion be punished? There has to be some form of punishment.
Then he showed us.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Now Donald Trump wants to go further with plans to restrict birth control, ban abortion nationwide, even monitor women's pregnancies. We know who Donald Trump is. He'll take control. We'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
In 2016, Donald Trump said he would choose only the best people to work in his White House. Now those people have a warning for America. Trump is not fit to be president again. Here's his vice president.
Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year.
His defense secretary.
Do you think Trump can be trusted with the nation's secrets ever again?
No. I mean, it's just irresponsible action that places our service members at risk, places our nation's security at risk.
His national security advisor.
Donald Trump will cause a lot of damage. The only thing he cares about is Donald Trump.
And the nation's highest ranking military officer.
We don't take an oath to a king.
or queen or a tyrant or a dictator, and we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Take it from the people who knew him best. Donald Trump is a danger to our troops and our democracy. We can't let him lead our country again.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message. I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message because you work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
Bob and I both voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice. I won't vote for him again. January 6th was a wake-up call for me.
Donald Trump divides people. We've already seen what he has to bring.
He didn't do anything to help us. Kamala Harris, she cares about the American people. I think she's got the wherewithal to make a difference. I've never voted for a Democrat.
Yes, we're both lifelong Republicans.
The choice is very simple.
I'm voting for Kamala.
I am voting for Kamala Harris.
IVF is a miracle for us because it allowed us to have our family. After having my daughter, I wanted more children, but my embryo transfer was canceled 8 days before the procedure. Donald Trump overturning Roe v. Wade stopped us from growing the family that we wanted. I don't want politicians telling me how or when I can have a baby. We need a president that will protect our rights, and that's Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, we're back here in Philadelphia, Sharon Baptist Church. Glad to be here. Introduce my panel here. To my left, Dr. R.J. Wilson, CEO, Faith Connects. Should explain exactly what that is, because all them acronyms. NJP, Commission for Black Male Engagement. Also, y'all clap. Go ahead. Ryan Boyer Jr., Chair, Young Voters for Harris. All right, glad to have all three. So we got a couple of panels, and so we'll chat with them first. I want to first of all, again, Battleground State, and you cannot turn the television on in this state and not see nothing but ads. I don't care if football game, baseball game, does not matter. I was having a bite to eat before here, and I saw what I thought was a Willie Horton type ad against the vice president, talking about her record as district attorney. Just your thoughts on what has been happening in this state in this election season, and just your assessment. You first.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you for going to these battleground states and showing up and showing out, because all hands on deck now. Less than 28 days, right? And so, as my husband and I, Morgan E. Wilson Jr., he's my partner in crime and partner in everything else. What we've been seeing specifically with black males in Philadelphia, and we own a mental health practice called, you said, I'll explain it, Faith Connects, stands for Family and Individual Therapeutic Healing, but we also launched a nonprofit called Mental Health First Connects. And the focus is to provide mental health and wellness-seeking behaviors and deal with the issues on the ground. Well, what I'm seeing is we are struggling. We are suffering. And they say that when white America gets a cold, black America gets the flu, pneumonia, and maybe COVID, and then dies from it, right? And so when we think about this voting block, we know that black women are going to vote. Many of us feel like we're going to go out there no matter what, but we get taken for granted because y'all know we're going to go out there and do it. The black men, and I can say this because of my husband and for my father who's 89, a lot of black men are feeling disenfranchised, they're feeling disengaged, they're feeling unheard, they're feeling unwelcome, they're feeling like they are not listened to. I call it the haves and the have-nots. Black men and women want to be heard. You want to be affirmed, right? You also want to be valued, and you want to be elevated. And that's not happening on the ground, right? And so when you talk about men, and Manny talked about it last night, especially for the younger black men, they're feeling hopeless. They're feeling like they don't have anyone to hear them. Now, notwithstanding, we know what we got to do, but I like to say, Roland, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We got to show that we care. We got to step out with our hearts and connect with people.
So a little earlier, I taped an interview with Stephen A. Smith. That's going to be on his show today. And he was talking about a column that was in the New York Times. Charles Coleman wrote about it. And he was talking about very much this very same thing. But there was something I said to Stephen, I said that also has to happen. I said, if we as a black community, specifically black men, black women, if we're waiting on a party or waiting on candidates to speak to us, then we're going to be waiting a very long time. And I just still fundamentally believe that what has to happen is we have to have institutions that are operating 365 days a year, 7 days a week, speaking to our interests and actually communicating to our people. And the conversation for me with this election should not be Democrat, Republican, should not be Kamala, Trump. It should be here are the issues, and then now how do folks line up? And I'm just of the mind. I'm just of the mind that I can't wait for somebody to call my name for me to then still do my part. Now, that may be a discussion that difference between somebody who is informed of what's going on and somebody who is not. But that's the struggle I have in terms of waiting for someone to communicate, because whether we like it or not, 70% of the electorate nationally is white. 70%. So the reality is, if you're running, 70% of the folk who are going to be voting are white. This is still a white nation. And so it's no surprise what the issues that people are focusing on, because if that's 70% and then everybody else is 30%, that explains to you exactly what's going on.
So I think the biggest problem that I see is tying a real life lived experiences to what people say politically, right? What people are promising politically, right? Where do we find black men? What are we dealing with on the ground every single day? And how do we tie that to, okay, because I'm dealing with these experiences, this person is representing me, so I need to go and vote for this person, right? And a conversation I was in earlier last week really centered around, like, okay, there's so much information out there. Folks don't necessarily know what to believe, but they know who to believe, right? So we also need to have those key people in play, the key trusted folks, community gatekeepers, in the sense to say, hey, these are the people who represent your best interest, so these are the people that you need to support, right? But again, it's communicating that sense of value to lived experiences of black people, lived experiences of black men specifically, right? One of the things that I love that Kamala said was that, black men aren't a monolith, right? So there are so many nuances in these experiences in which they need to be heard, they need to be valued, and like you said, they need to be addressed as well, right?
But see, Ryan, when we say they need to be heard, the first thing I then go is, okay, then where are they hearing you? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're two things, if you're not going to candidates, and then if there are not the town hall discussions, forums, then who's going to hear you and where? And that's also part of the deal. So for me, how I look at this the onus is really on both folks. To me, this is sort of like you can't have somebody who says our marriage is in trouble, but I'm waiting to see what you're going to do.
Now I can speak on that.
But my point is, it's two people.
It's two people, right?
It's two people,
right? And a rescue team is not coming.
Right. So when
rescue is not coming.
So when we talk about candidates making promises, I keep trying to explain to people, no candidate can. I love these people who talk about tangibles. No candidate can deliver on a promise unless they are elected. So that means that after the election, if they win, how do you then continue to press them to get it done? Because there's going to be somebody on the other side who doesn't want that to happen. I just think that what often has happened is many of us have checked out of the process after the election is over and then go, hey, what happened? We didn't stay engaged. So as you're looking at these young voters for Harris, what are they saying, and are they echoing some of these same sentiments?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. I think young black voters specifically, they've been disengaged from the whole civic engagement process because, like you said, we only focus on these issues that affect our community during the election cycles. It's like every so often, every 4 years or so, we fall you all people right?
Kamala Harris has never backed down from a challenge. She put cartel members and drug traffickers behind bars, and she will secure our border. Here's her plan: hire thousands more border agents, enforce the law and step up technology, and stop fentanyl smuggling and human trafficking. We need a leader with a real plan to fix the border, and that's Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
The overturning of Roe almost killed me. I had a blood clot in my uterus that caused my labor to have to be induced because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I wasn't able to get life-saving treatment sooner. I almost died. And that's because of the decision that Donald Trump made.
People's attention spans are a lot shorter. So young folks, they're consuming information with 30-second clips on a day-to-day basis through TikTok, through YouTube Shorts, through Instagram, and that's how they get their information. And I feel like there's not enough of a blitz of that type of information funneled towards young voters.
Well, we're seeing, I mean, so again, we're seeing a lot of these things happen, digital ads, things along those lines. I just still think that when we talk about folks who say stuff is not getting done, like literally, I read this piece and it was very interesting because in the it was a really interesting thing here for me when I saw it, and actually there were a lot of contradictions in it as well, and so the lead the first paragraph said, Black men today face a unique reality that warrants consideration under nearly any relevant index for measuring the quality of American life, how far we get in school, our finances when compared with those of our white counterparts, and how long we will live. Black men consistently rank last or near last. There is not a black man alive in this country right now who has ever seen black male unemployment equal to or less than that of his white counterparts. But it also applies to black women. So if I go through here and talk about that applies to black women. When he was talking about Congress not moving forward on the George Floyd Police and Justice Act, absolutely agree with that. But it also applies to black women. Then when he was talking about the issue of voting rights, the issue of starting businesses, that also applies to black women. And then if I keep going on, and again, talking about this here, and there were some things, he said, student loan repayment is a worthy cause to champion, especially in a tough economy, but what relevance does that have when black male enrollment on the college campuses is dwindling? Okay, but whose fault is that? And we also have to address that, and the reality is, you can't, if I'm going to hold a politician accountable for student loan, I got to realize college is the end of a process. So then it's high school, then it's middle school, then it's elementary school. So then I have to deal with that. And then if I keep going on, and I've heard a lot about there needs to be a very specific agenda to black men. Okay, so I'll ask the two of you, what is that? What is the specific agenda to black men that is so drastically different than black women? What is it?
So I don't necessarily know if it's that drastically different, right? So again, black people in general, we have historical disenfranchisement with the political process. We understand that. Black men have our own specific set of nuances and kind of disengagement with the political process because folks feel like they haven't been heard. They haven't been...
No. But okay,
so, hold on,
if they haven't been heard, what do they want to be heard about? That's what I want to know.
Their experience.
And what is that?
Their experience needs to be validated. So, essentially their experience is, school to prison pipeline, right? Their experience is those specific things of being a male that allows gender-specific problems that necessarily sometimes get lost in the greater conversation.
Right. Like what?
Right. So school to prison pipeline is...
But here's the deal. If I pull the data right now, the suspension rates for black boys is on par with the suspension rates of black girls. So again, the only thing I'm asking is when I hear the nuances of black men, what I want to know is what's the nuance?
Well, economic opportunity. I would say that's one of them. Funding for education. Our education system is broken. Okay, let's stop right there. Okay, funding for education. If black boys going to school and the black girls going to school, they're under the same funding paradigm. No. I'm not talking college. I'm talking elementary school, middle school, high school. So, school funding is not based upon gender. School funding is based upon enrollment. But I would also say representation is extremely important for young black males as well. Representation of what? Like teachers in the classroom. That's right. There needs to be more black teachers, more black male presence in the classroom. So here's what I'm trying to get at. I've had this conversation in so many different places, but what rarely happens are folks actually identifying the specific things that are different and they want addressed that then somebody can then address. And that to me is where the struggle is. I think what we have to, because here's what we have to do. We have to actually push back when somebody throws it out to force them to be specific. So, for instance, in this piece, and I've actually heard it, in this piece, the brother said, there's a perception that the Democratic Party is a party of women. Because, I'm telling you, I've heard this, a lot of brothers are bothered by when they hear black girl magic. And I'm just, if we're going to do with perceptions, I've heard this. I've heard brothers say, all I'm seeing are women being appointed and being touted. And I then go, okay, so they've done 200 federal judges, 58 black, 37 black women, 21 black men. I then ask them, how many existing federal judges are black men compared to black women? They can't answer that question. Because there's way more black men. So then I had a brother say, well, I'm seeing all these sisters. Supreme Court Justice. I'm like, okay, Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's one sister. There've only been 3 black people, 2 of them black men. There are 4 United States senators right now who are black, 1 black woman, LaFonza Butler, who leaves in January, and 3 black men. I then say, okay, there are more black male members of the U.S. House than black women. So I start walking these things through, and what I say to brothers is, okay, you're responding to recent history because they've been frozen out. 1972, Shirley Chisholm did not go to the black political convention in Gary, Indiana, because the black men there were clear they weren't going to support her for president. So I think what we have to do is we as black men have to have some real conversations to brothers as well to say, if you're responding to certain things you're seeing, now ask, why am I seeing that? Because you're also correcting what are historical
historical realities of folks being frozen out. And so that to me is a problem, because also if I started naming who are your top black Democratic leaders, Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader, man. Jim Clyburn, man. Jamie Harrison, head of the DNC, man. I mean, we could just start naming folks. And that, to me, again, I think what has to happen, there has to be the constant pushback. Because if we don't force these brothers to have to answer that, I get feelings, I get perceptions, but I want to get down to, no, let me get to the core. What is your fundamental issue? And I think part of the problem with this conversation, I'm going to come to you, then I'm going to come to you, is that we are not pushing them to have to answer that central question. We are allowing emotions and perceptions and kind of stuff, what I heard, to rule that's not rooted in reality.
Sure. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. But I do also want to kind of go back to understanding the nature of the black male socialization process, right? So we go back to, black men, one, we're not allowed to emote. We're expected to have it all. And we're expected to perform. The way we engage in society, the way we feel validated and love society is based on performance, right? So, and the only way we're allowed to emote that is valid is through anger or through kind of sexual prowess, right? Especially growing up young, especially growing up here in Philly, right? That leads you to negative consequences, right? So if you get led on that path to negative consequences, you don't have folks that give you the right tools, organizations like yourself, where folks can actually have social support and all these other things that lead you to those specific negative consequences, was that jail or in the grave or anything else, right? So those things, and then also, okay, so say you make it past there, middle school, high school, you get to college, right? You get to college, as a black man, you expect to have money. As a black man, again, you're expected to perform. You're in college, where you getting money from, right? Where you getting necessarily these things? So I think the nature of the experience, again, is really understanding the pressures of performance without support that black men go through, and not to say that black women don't go through as well, that aren't necessarily immediately tied to the larger political process if folks aren't having those continued conversations. So us here on the Mayor's Council for African American Males, we have those conversations in those communities. And Ryan is on that commission as well.
But what you're seeing, though, in the data, though, what you're seeing is you're seeing millennial and Gen Z men becoming far more conservative than their female counterparts. And so there's a reason, Ryan, why Donald Trump, actually coming to you next, then Ryan. There's a reason why Trump is specifically going to these millennial Gen Z podcasters. Because what you have is Fox News, Stephen Miller's of the world, Jesse Waters of the world, Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, they are on this whole manhood. So what they're doing is they are talking about that we're becoming a feminine nation. And so what they're doing, they're pushing the buttons of a lot of these young men. Oh, you're soft, and then now they're appealing to them that way. These gender dynamics are playing. And so political folks are looking at this by saying, wait a minute, what's going on here in terms of why these younger men, not just black, are appealing? Because Trump is presenting himself as this strong, tough, rugged, John Wayne type person. And I get all of that, but I'm sitting here going, keep in mind, John Wayne, ain't got nothing for you beyond his attitude and persona. So if you want to vote for persona, I get it, but let me let you know what's behind that persona, and then you can be like, oh my God, what did I do? Now it's too late.
Roland, I want to go way back. Like, we women just got the right to vote not that long ago. Right? And what's been happening, which I feel like you're alluding to, is that there has been the destruction and the severing of black men and women for years. That is not of our own doing. But just because we didn't do it and we didn't deserve it doesn't mean it's not on us to fix it. Slavery separated black men and women. It separated our families. Lynching, Jim Crow, all the way up to the welfare program, where women had children by men who could not live in the house with their babies.
And let's be clear, that also was not designed for black people. That was designed for white women.
There you go.
That was not designed for us.
Yeah. But we certainly did not benefit from it.
Right.
And so you said something last night about these issues for black men, which I love black men. And I believe that black men love us back as black women. 44,000 showed up when Biden dropped out of the race, and then 55,000 men showed up the next day saying we got to take care of our sister.
Right, but
what happened?
But the sisters show up every week.
Absolutely. I understand, because
I lead the black men call.
I'm not in that meeting.
No, I am.
Yeah.
Now, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here going, where y'all at? So what happens is, again, what you're talking about, we've created the space. But one thing that brothers do, and they got to own it, brothers don't keep showing up. The sisters keep showing up, stay organized, stay mobilized, and I know all the sisters on that call. That's a regiment. They got to run a show. They raise money, do all this sort of stuff like that. And so that's why I tell brothers, you can't be hyped for the moment, because keep in mind, next week is the 29th anniversary of the Million Man March. Next week.
Yeah.
October 16th. So that's also part of the deal. Cats can't say, I want to be heard. Okay, we here every Sunday. Where you at?
I think that's the consistency that you're talking about, but you also have to deal with the survival that's happening on the ground and speak to that so that they will show up. One thing I wanted to say about this black maternal health issue, you cannot talk about maternal health if you do not talk about paternal health. It goes hand in hand. And what we're trying to do is divide these issues, but it's a collective issue. And we have to have, you talked about conversations, right? Community conversations. They need to be courageous conversations. We need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to be honest with each other so that we can make a difference. Ultimately, 28 days, and no matter what happens,
right,
we're going to have to deal with the fallout of it.
But here's why I don't believe you have to have it. And just be clear, I'm clear. And then Rebecca and Derek, hold on, I'm coming to y'all. I'm going to Ryan, then I'm going to bring them up. Here's why I don't have to have a paternal health conversation when I'm having a black maternal health conversation. Because the black maternal health conversation is a specific conversation that actually involves paternal as well, because they birthing boys.
That's right.
So, but the problem is when the vice president is talking about black maternal health, brothers are like, that ain't me. That is you.
That is you.
Because one, they got pregnant somehow.
Yes.
That's just biology. That was not, ain't a bunch of Marys out there. And immaculate conceptions. It's just not. It's just not. But again, that's a perfect example, Ryan, though, of an issue that I've heard brothers define as, oh, she talking to sisters. No, that's actually our issue too. So I don't always have to have somebody to say brothers to know that's also involving me. Go ahead.
So to address your earlier point, I haven't really heard that many brothers hating on sisters. I don't hear that. The primary concern that I've been hearing from black males is, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to provide for my family? If I have a small business and I got the T's dotted, the T's crossed and the I's dotted, and I can't get access to capital, how am I going to get access to capital?
And then the response is, of Trump's 4 years and Biden-Harris 4 years, who's actually provided more access to capital for black-owned businesses?
Right. And I think to that point,
Biden-Harris,
there's a lot of misinformation being spread. Or not enough information being funneled through the black community,
right,
to where they'll know that.
Well, that's why they also need to watch my show every day, because we provide the information.
Right.
So, but again, you're right. So again,
but a lot of the time, platforms like yours, we cater to people like everybody in this room who are in tune with this type of stuff.
No.
But we don't.
No. We talk to everybody.
On the people.
No. We talk to everybody. Whoever shows up, shows up.
But that's the point.
It's a self-selection process.
These people in the communities, they're not worried about this. They're worried about surviving. They're in survival mode.
But here's the point I'm making here. When we talk about I'm in survival mode, but then I need information, I need access. Information provides you where to get the access. I'm going back to at some point, whenever we have these conversations, I got to put the onus on the other person to do some work. And so what happens is when I'm out talking to folks, it happens all the time. Brothers are like, man, I got this idea, but I ain't getting no help. Who did you call? Well, what do you mean? Who did you call? Who did you reach out to? And so then when I asked that third and fourth question, say, man, why? No. Don't see. I tell everybody, don't come to me with a problem and not expect me to hit you with some questions. So what happens is we've got to make the other person got to do some work. And so we've got to, again, when we have these discussions, we got to push folks to say, I need you to do some stuff too. It can't be you come to me with 99% of the energy and I'm just going to sit here and wait on you. That simply cannot happen. And so when I'm challenging folks on this, that's when folk get real nervous because now I'm making them do some work. So when we having these conversations in neighborhoods, our deal has to be, okay, if you want this, call this person or go here. I purposely don't carry business cards anymore. You know why? Because 99.9% of the people never email. So why am I walking around with some cards handing out and you don't even use it? It happens all the time. I did a master class at Clark Atlanta. This is a college campus. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I did a master class at Clark Atlanta 2 weeks ago. In a 2.5-hour discussion, I talked about relationship building, networking, how I connected with people, how I advanced. When it was over, they walked to the front, asked for a selfie, and then left. By the fifth person, I went, did any of y'all listen to the whole thing? Like, not one person said, can I get your contact information? And I literally stood there, and I went, I know I just said all this sort of stuff. That also happens. And so this is what I mean by if we're going to have the conversation, we got to push our folk to also say, I need you to also engage. It can't just always be me. Hold your thought. I need Rebecca and Derek to step in. Rebecca, your thoughts.
Absolutely. This is a really good conversation. And the reason why,
Rebecca,
for my years of working...
Rebecca?
Yes, for my years of working on... For my years of working on campaigns, one thing that I have observed is that the framing of the discussion matters and the impact matters. So, for instance, if you are calling out Black men and talking to specific the variety of Black demographics within the voting electorate, you also have to talk about issues but frame the impact directly towards Black men. So, as an example, if we're talking about reproductive justice, it is more than just abortion, and it's also more than just maternal health. When we know that 50% of fertility issues in this country is because of low sperm count and low sperm motility. So that is a very specific thing to men. But unfortunately, when we're talking about these issues, there isn't always that impact towards this is how it impacts Black men. So my question for the Black men on the panel, what are the top issues specifically to Black men? And I think this is what Roland was getting to earlier. What are the specific issues that Black men need to hear that is unique and specific to the lived Black experience in this country?
Are they answering your question, Rebecca?
Derek, go ahead.
Okay. Well, listen, I do agree with Roland and Rebecca. This is a great conversation to have. Roland, you know, right here in Georgia, we've been having these conversations, these harsh conversations in barbershops because we're taking the approach, we got to meet black men where they are. And so we go into the barbershop. And one of the things that I continue to tell brothers here in Georgia, specifically in the Atlanta metropolitan area, and as well as the rural area, because a lot of brothers said, well, I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris. And I asked the question, well, why? Well, I heard she locked up 1,900 people. I said, well, stop. I said, did you Google that? No, somebody else said it, and then somebody else said it. I said, well, let me ask you this. Did you hear D.L. Hughley during the DNC? No. I said, let me just share this story what D.L. Hughley discovered when he wronged and sharing untruths about Kamala Harris till he realized he had to do his own due diligence, his own research, and find out the truth for himself, and then later discover how he wronged her. And so I said, let me tell you, that 1,900 number that you continue to hear about, only 45 brothers were locked up. That means the other 1,850 were not. Do you know that Kamala Harris recidivism went from 54% down to 12%, where she developed programs? And I'm just using this, Roland, as an example, because when we say, well, I don't hear brothers attacking sisters, oh, that's out there. It's out there, especially in our community right now. And so that's one issue. The other issue I would say is this, Roland, and you touched on it. We do not continue to show up. Here in Georgia, we have 3 million blacks. I'm not talking about Hispanics, Asian. I'm just talking about black folks, registered black folks. And only 60% cast their ballot. Nearly 1 million do not even vote, and they're eligible to vote. You only need 2 million, Roland, in Georgia, 2 million votes to become governor. And so if we got 3 million registered black people, if you want a black governor, we have the votes. We have the votes for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. And so if we need a strategy, a real strategy, let that be our strategy. Because last time I can recall, Frederick Douglass didn't wait for a strategy. He walked into the office of Abraham Lincoln and said what we needed. And that produced the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment. And so we just got to continue to show up. We got to have a hard conversation. We got to meet voters where they are. And then once we get in office, then have an accountability meeting, right? But most of us in our black communities, we don't know our school board members. We don't know the mayor, the city council, state representative, the state senator. And so you cannot affect change if you don't know those who directly impact your lives every day.
I just think that, again, I see a lot of these pieces. I see a lot of these discussions. I think our challenge really has to be, look, you're not going to spend a lot of time educating people the next 28 days. But I do think the conversation of the next 28 days has to be, one of these two people are going to win. They're going to win. I saw a video today. There was a Muslim leader. He was speaking in Michigan, and they were saying we could lead to Kamala Harris losing and Trump becoming president. And I'm going, now you know he don't care about none of y'all. Like I was literally trying to understand the logic of saying let's defeat her and he wins. I'm like, oh, he guaranteed. First of all, he want to send all y'all home. It was just, I mean, politically the conversation made, and then the people who what was it? No, the folks who chose not to vote in Michigan. Yeah, uncommitted. They came out and endorsed because they now understand the political reality of, listen, one of these two people are going to win. It's going to be Trump. It's going to be Harris. And what I keep saying is that the couch cannot be an option, because I think when we challenge people on what they care about, we have to force them to answer the question, okay, what do you care about? What do you want to see happen? Now, let me tell you where both of these people stand on that. And I just fundamentally believe that if you ask any black man 5 questions, or what are the 5 issues you care about, it's a good bet 4 of them Trump is against. And so then the question then goes, now which one are you going to pick? Now that's when the conversation gets real rough, because now it's like, okay, what is it going to be? I remember in 2016, I was in Chicago, was at a bar, I forgot, this white guy recognizes me, and he was like, well, what do you think? So I'm like, okay. I said, pull a sheet of paper out. We actually I said, I drew a line down the middle. I put a T and I put an H. And I said, pick the issue. When 1, 2, 3, 4, we did 10 issues. Hillary Clinton had 7 of the checks. Trump had 3. Then he goes, I just can't vote for her. I said, you agree with her on 70% of your issues, but you still can't? I said, you stupid. No, and so I had to just go ahead and say that, because that to me right there, if you're telling me I can't vote for this woman because I just can't, or whatever it is, I said, man, take all that out. If she's with you on 7 of the 10, I said, man, that's basic math. And I think that's also what you're also dealing with. And so this struggle that we're seeing has to be, we have to be having challenging conversations in our community on so many of these issues. And we got to force folks to say, I need you in the game. I need you in the game. And I think after when Biden dropped out, you saw Harris's numbers explode, not only among black men, but especially among young black women, because they recognize, okay, this is not what's going on. Biden wasn't exciting people. And so this is going to continue. This has to be after November 5th. There has to be in our community very clear, public, constant, regular, annual, monthly, bi-weekly, weekly civics conversations, and inviting the very same people. And the question is, let's see if they show up.
So I think we're all making an assumption right here that people make decisions based off of logic.
Oh, no, we don't.
No. Exactly. We know that we don't. Psychology tells you that we make emotion-based decisions, and we tend to rationalize it later, right? So that's why I always go to, how do people feel? Do they feel love? Do they feel safe? Do they feel heard? Do they feel understood? That's what they go to. We go towards pleasure and we avoid pain, right? So if we're looking at that dichotomy, that dynamic, again, not only voter education, absolutely, you need to know exactly what you're signing up for. But at the same time, we are ruled by our feelings. So if we understand that, how do we engender those feelings into the demographic we're trying to inspire? And if we're talking about black men, we have a specific nuanced sense of understandings that for us to activate our feelings. Even something that you said earlier before, you were like, you went to a thing and everybody just wanted to take a selfie and nobody actually wanted to actually get, well, do they see you as accessible, right? Like, if I get your number, can I call you? And
hold up. I'm literally standing in front.
No, afterward.
No. The event's over.
Right.
Let me explain you how it was.
Okay. And nobody said nothing.
I'm standing right here. They walked up. Can I get a selfie? Yes. We took a photo. They left. And I was like, is she really gonna leave? By the 5th person, I went, are y'all serious? But no, wait, hold up.
Okay.
I said, I just gave a whole masterclass speech and gave real world examples of how I went to this person, got their number, followed up, connected, and explained how it benefited my career in high school, college, gave all of the examples. Then one sister, she took me out. She said, well, I'm so used to people approaching me. I said, why would I approach you? I said, what do you have that would make me approach you? What was crazy is that, again, they literally, now she didn't get mad, but when I broke her down, she was kind of like, damn, I feel real stupid right now. I'm like, yeah, you do. But the crazy thing is, and this ain't just black, because I've done it spoken in white schools. It was literally, I'm walking you through all the examples of how I connected directly with people by walking up to them after the event or maneuver my way to get the information. And they literally were walking up. And then when I busted them, they were like, can I get your number? QR code right there. The phone was sitting right next to me. So at what point, after a 2.5 hour conversation, what more do I then have to do if I've explained it to you? This is what I'm saying, that we have to sometimes, I can't nurture everybody.
For sure.
I can't, listen, because when you talk about feelings, I can't tell you what I had to tell my TV One staff who was caught up in their feelings. Because I at the meeting, I said, FYF. Y'all can figure that one out, what I said about their feelings. Because, no, seriously, because they were like, well, we write these scripts and you don't read them, because I don't have to read what you write. It's option. Did you do your job? Yeah. You turn it on time? Yeah. Was it edited? Yeah. That's what you get paid to do. I'm not obligated to read what you write. But they were in their feelings like, well, you didn't read it. You're right. Because when the red light came on, when the show started, it's me. It ain't you. But they were caught up in feelings. We have to get people to understand feelings have practical political consequences, and you checking out of a process has a practical result, which means you're absolutely not going to be heard. The most guaranteed way for young black people never to be heard is to check out of the political process. And that's what I'm trying to explain to people. If you want to be heard, you got to be in the room. You can't just think it's just going to automatically happen. Go right here, and I'm going to break.
Yeah, but I think also one thing that we're missing is people have to have the capacity to care. So if so many of our people come from blighted communities, over-policed areas, they suffer from mental health issues, overcrowded classrooms.
Hold up, I got to stop you right there. But if they care about the problem, I need you to care about the solution. That's why I'm saying you got to ask them, what did I say? Name me the 5 things you care about.
But also, education is a huge piece of this too. When we talk about broken classrooms and, overcrowded classrooms, a lot of our schools don't even have air conditioning.
Follow me here.
So kids can't even learn to even have the capacity to grow.
I got all that. What I'm saying is, we have to be the ones that say, baby, what do you care about? I care about this, this, this. Do you know how the president impacts that? Do you know how the governor impacts that? Do you know how the mayor impacts that? Do you know how the state representative, the school board? And when you walk them through, then you say, now, you not voting, meaning you can't change nothing you just said if you don't vote. I don't care what school they went to. They can figure that one out. But if that conversation doesn't happen, then we're going to be having this same conversation every election cycle.
But those conversations don't happen often enough.
No. See, right there. See, I don't diagnose problems. I deal with solutions. So if those conversations are not happening enough, here's the question I then have. What are the organizations in Philadelphia that are having those conversations on a regular basis? Where are they meeting? When are they meeting? And how are others amplifying when they do to drive people there?
Oh, it's plenty of community organizations in Philly that do.
Hold up. Stop right there. You just said there's plenty of community organizations. Where's the list?
They all out there.
No. You ain't answered that right. Where's the list?
You want me to name them all?
Nope. That's not what I asked you for. Where's the list?
Out there for the community?
No, it's not. Okay, if somebody's watching right now, where do they go to access that list to know when they meet?
So they can go to the city office, they can go to their ward leaders.
Nope, see right there.
RCOs, registered community organizations.
No. See, there's a reason
all in the backyard.
That's the reason I'm walking you through what I'm doing right now. Those are not community-based groups.
They are community-based groups.
No, you said go to the city.
Registered community organizations?
You said, no. You said go to the city, go to their ward. Those are not community groups.
No, and then I said registered community organizations.
Here's the point I'm making. You keep saying they exist.
You can go to your neighborhood rec center. They got bulletin boards at every single rec center.
No. Okay, again, you still not seeing my point. If you can't tell, if somebody comes to me and they say, I need access to capital, here are the CDIs, the community development institutions in this city that are being funded for you to go get a loan.
Well, now we have an Office of Black Male Engagement in the city of Philadelphia where...
Okay. Does the Office of Black Male Engagement have those organizations listed? So can somebody call there and then be able to say, here's the website, here's the listing, this is where you go?
Well, we've had events where we went to the community. We went to barbershops. We going right to them and telling them where they can find all these resources.
In the office, they do have a link tree on your Instagram. So
hold on, which office?
The Office of Black Male Engagement. So
keep talking.
Yeah, go find it. So we do have an accessibility issue. Don't get me wrong. We talk about this all the time, right? We have a huge accessibility issue. There's a lot of stuff going on. And outside of you introduced me with the African American males, but I also run Philly's largest network of Black and brown professionals. We make sure that we retain, attract, and develop Black and brown folks here to this city and other cities in which we operate. Well, part of that is making sure that Black and brown folks have access to what they need. There's a lot of resources out here, but they're not really getting directly to the people, right? So we do understand that we do have this accessibility issue. And we're working on it, right?
Okay, hold on. So
as a community organization, because I'm not a politician.
Okay,
right?
So if there are a lot of resources that are not getting to the people, who are you partnering with to get the information to the people, and how is the information getting to the people?
So one, a lot of wonderful folks in this room. Also other community organizations who all have those resources. The Office of Black Male Engagement, the Mayor's Commission of African American Males, everything in every major sector. The reason why it's called the Connect is because we bring folks together and then we deploy it.
Okay.
Right? How do we deploy it?
So how are you also tracking data? Meaning, how many people are all of those entities touching every single month? What's the number?
So we have. So what's the number?
Yeah.
So we have an online platform right now.
No. I didn't say online. If you're having events. How many are you touching every month?
How many people are we touching? We're touching between 300 to 500 people every month.
Okay, 300 to 500 people. That means in a course of a year, you're touching 6,000 people.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's just events. You're assuming it's only event-based.
No.
I'm online and continuing these conversations.
No. I'm not. I'm walking you through what I consider to be a micro and a macro strategy.
Cool. Let's walk.
And this is what I'm saying. And this ain't just Philadelphia.
Sure.
I deal with this all around the country. This is what I often hear. We have a litany of resources. We have people who are doing this. Okay, then how many are they reaching? 6,000 is a very small number. If you're doing 6,000 and 20 others are doing 6,000, now we talking about 100,000+ people. Are we doing that? How's it being tracked? What are they getting?
Sure.
I believe in annual reports. Last year we touched 100,000. This year we touched 150,000. Is that being done? For me, I don't believe you just simply say, hey, go to a bulletin board. No. I'm going to point you exactly where to go. So then all of a sudden, now it's on you. Now it's on you that you go. Because if I see you again and I gave you the information and you didn't go, don't come to me complaining. See, this what I'm talking about here is the struggle that is happening in our community, in that we are not challenging our organizations and our own people to go to where the information is to get out of our present conditions. What I cannot tolerate are a litany of the problems where, if the solutions are there, how are we connecting the two?
Well, we have to break these resources out of these silos and have a larger community conversation of what the collective impact model looks like.
Here's the deal. We actually have a lot of community conversation.
For sure.
I need community action.
For sure. And that's the part of the conversation.
That's all I'm saying.
Needs to prelude the action. Of course, the action needs to happen, right?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And so this is what I'm saying politically. Politically, we have to be having, and I'm going to go back to it. I want to know, what are the groups on a weekly basis that are doing Civics 101?
Sure.
That are doing political training? Who? Give me one.
Urban League of Philadelphia, next Philadelphia.
Okay, when is their next meeting?
I think in about 2 weeks.
Okay, so they do. So they do political.
Yes.
That's what they do.
That's a part of one of the things that they do. Correct.
Right, but I'm saying, but the next meeting they have, is that specifically what they're doing?
I mean, I don't run the organization.
No, but you threw their name out.
Right, I know they do that. I know they do that frequently.
No, but I asked a specific question for a reason.
Sure.
Because if there's somebody right now who's trying to understand politics in Philadelphia, I want them showing up in 2 weeks.
Go to Urban League.
And I want to make sure that they're actually doing that.
Next Philadelphia, Urban League Philadelphia.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And so then, which means that, okay, the next meeting in the Urban League, they doing that, should be packed out in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm going to check.
Call me. I give you the...
I'm going to check. Because this also has to happen, because I want you to speak to this here. And this is the one thing that we are afraid of, not just black people, everybody. Accountability.
Sure.
We as individuals and groups are afraid of accountability because when we get challenged on stuff, we get defensive as opposed to say, you know what, I'm going to take that on and I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. But that's also part of this piece. So what I'm arguing is accountability has to be on the politician, but it also has to be on the voter.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, you're right. You know, love, light, truth, and accountability equals hope and freedom. And so it's not just, you're right, it's not just the feelings. We understand that we have a culture issue and we have a care issue. We've gone to a very dark place in this culture, and people do not feel cared for. But that at the end of the day, the truth is that it's our babies that are dying in the street. And we do have to hold ourselves accountable for after November 5th, we still have to march on because it will be those mothers who are not being heard in the hospitals that are dying, not just because they're in the hospital, but afterwards they're dealing with postpartum depression and psychosis and killing themselves with their children still waiting for them to come home. So we do have a problem, but we also can have solutions. You said, Roland, last night.
Right.
I'm a part of the Divine Nine. I'm a part of the Divine Nine. There are so many organizations here that are educated people that can show up. It's incumbent upon us to show up and show out and speak up for those that cannot speak up for themselves.
Let me do this real quick. And I just sorry, y'all just saw the notice. Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Glynda Heights, Higher Carr. Both of y'all are still there?
Yep, I'm here.
You still there? There we go. All right, Cliff, you and Glynda, y'all out here. I just want y'all to weigh in on what y'all been hearing because, Cliff, y'all do this 365/7, and y'all are all about taking away excuses of folk who say, we don't know, we didn't hear. So, Cliff, you first, then Glynda, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great conversation. I think it really just highlights, you know, the needs we have for these ongoing discussions. You know, I always say we can complain about the disinformation that's being sent to our communities, particularly to black men, and even more specifically, a lot of younger black men. But, you know, I always say that disinformation, it grows in a vacuum, right? It can only take root in a vacuum. You know, as long as we're having the conversations that we need to be having, and to your point, Roland, you know, taking the actions that we need to be taking and providing on-ramps for other people to take actions. And that's why we do this work, and we call it, as you said, the 365 work, is because, you know, my on-ramp isn't going to be the same as the next person's on-ramp. For some people, that on-ramp is going to be a big presidential election. For a lot of people, that on-ramp is actually a more local issue, sometimes a very specific issue, sometimes about a local ballot initiative, and that's their on-ramp. You know, just as an example, here in Atlanta, you know, we had 100,000 people, those who organized the Stop Cop City movement and that petition, 100,000 signatures. That's more signatures than the current mayor got, and more importantly, that's more signatures than were cast, votes that were cast in total in the total mayor's election. That's for the current mayor as well as against the current mayor, right? And so for 100,000 people or some number that did not participate in that local mayor's election, they saw fit to sign on to a petition because they cared about that one issue that much. And so that's why doing this work 365, having these conversations 365, and providing on-ramps for people to get involved, whether it's by signing a petition, doing a phone bank, sending a text, just reaching out to 5 friends. That's one of the things we do all the time. We call it our 5 Friends Pledge. We always say, if you see somebody wearing our shirt, that person has done something, because we don't just give them away. You have to do something, even if that something is just forwarding our information or some voter registration information to 5 of their friends and family.
Glynda Carr, perfect example. For years, you heard sisters say, man, we can't raise money, all this sort of stuff. Y'all were like, fine, we're going to create an organization that's specifically what we're doing, raising money to elect black women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glynda Carr, she's the Higher Heights. That's what they do.
That's what I do. What we do. Thank you, Roland. I echo what Cliff and you have said, that Black people have been organizers since the dawn of time. This work over the last, within 30 days is actually going to be about what we call relational organizing. And Black women have been really the powerhouse of that. Like, when we fire up a Black woman, she doesn't go to the polls alone. She brings a house, her block, her church, her sorority, and her union. And so this work is not only plugging into institutions like Black Voters Matter and Higher Heights. We have a growing number of people we have a bus tour that starts this week that are excited to do what Michelle Obama told us to do, which is to do something. And they want to go to battleground states and talk to voters in those battleground states. But we also have to take care of home. I realize that if I sat, Cliff, we do a circle of 10, right? If we sit and go, typically engagement people will say, all of my network is registered and ready to vote. In fact, if we sit on it, we know 10 people in our lives. I realized that my young cousin, who is 20 years old, is visually impaired. I was like, you know what? I don't know if he's registered to vote. And he actually is going to need assistance, not only to register to vote, but also to vote. So I'm taking care of my home first, while I continue to be engaged in helping to move votes, not only in my neighborhood, in my community, but because people are excited about this national election. It is all about local elections. And so, one, let's make sure that we are prepared. And I agree with you, misinformation is being targeted to our Black voters, Black men and Black women. It is not just organic. It is done by bad actors who are funneling millions of dollars and putting in information because they know that Black influencers, and I don't mean the big influencers, but the everyday people who are watching this, that when we post things on our social media, people believe that information is to be to be factual. So before you share anything, let's just go ahead and do some research so that we are having factual debate conversations. We all sitting at a point where we all agree about the direction of this country. We may not agree on how we get there. And so I think this is a healthy debate among our community to talk about what we want from our elected leaders. We have to hold our elected leaders accountable for those who are vying for our votes. But frankly, one of the things that we have to do a better job at is creating the environment for our elected leaders who are champions to push good, bold public policies when they're elected.
Pull up the graphic again for the bus tour for Higher Heights. They're going to be in 5 cities over the next 2 days. Saturday, 8 a.m. Brooklyn, New York, 10 a.m. in Newark, New Jersey, 12:30 p.m. Philadelphia. Sunday, 10 a.m. Wilmington, Delaware, 12:30 p.m. Baltimore, Maryland. Cliff, y'all are out there as well. You're kicking off a lot of stuff. You got ads that are dropping. What are you, in the conversation that y'all are having out there with Black men, what are you hearing? But also, what are your folks telling them?
Yeah, something that we've been hearing a lot is, when you do what you was just talking about, right? When you see people say, oh, I don't know how I feel about her. I don't know if I'm going to vote for her or whatever. We say, just like you said, what are the issues that you care about? And what we're finding is amongst the Black men who are questioning, right, not sure about whether or not they're going to vote for Kamala, the small percentage that might even be thinking about Trump, a lot of times the issue that comes up is the economic issue, right? But when you drill down on it and you talk to them about, what about the economic policies, right? And do you even know, what the policies are of these two people? I was talking to one young brother on the campus in North Carolina just a few days ago, and he started talking about, the tax breaks. And I'm like, well, do you know, who gets the tax breaks that each of them are talking about? Do you know, which Trump, because you're not in the tax bracket of the people that Trump's trying to give the tax breaks.
Right. You are in the 39.1% tax bracket. You, your mama, or your daddy. Stop it.
Right. And his response was,
And when you told him that, what did he say, Cliff?
He said, well, I will be. That's where I want to be. That's where I plan to be. And I'm like, well, not next year, because clearly you still on campus. You still, you still in college. So, I'm not trying to break nobody's bubble or burst their dreams or whatever. But again, just having that conversation around, do you even know what the details are of their various plans? Do you know the details of, Kamala Harris's housing plan, right? Or her plan to invest in small businesses. And so a lot of times just having that conversation breaks through, where somebody will say, you know what, I didn't know that, right? Talking to another couple of brothers, and they didn't know about the abortion bans, didn't know about Amber Thurman, dying because of an abortion ban in Georgia. So for some of these brothers, just having the conversation and giving some good information does it. There are some, though, we got to be really clear about this, and it's not the majority, it's not even a big percentage, right? But there are some who, whatever the issue is, whether it's economic or something else, is really a smokescreen for, I just can't vote for this woman because I don't think a woman can lead. And we've had conversations with brothers. In fact, somebody was telling me about one just earlier today who he just came straight out with it. Like, I don't think in fact, said to the woman who was canvassing, you shouldn't even be here canvassing. You need to be home. Right? Taking care of your family.
And Cliff, I got a better one for you. A black Republican, I'm not going to name him, but a long-time black Republican cussed out his brother-in-law because he was shading Kamala Harris. He was like, you ain't going to be a black man married to my sister dissing this sister. And he a black Republican. He can't stand Trump, but he's still a black Republican. So I was hollering, laughing. He's like, man, I had to cuss him out. He's like, you dogging the vice president, that black woman, but you married to my sister? Oh, it was a rough conversation in that household. So, but again, though, this is where I keep going back to how we have to have direct conversation, engaging people, pushing them to stuff that they're actually saying so they understand it. So, Glynda and Cliff, I sorry I kept y'all waiting. The bus tour for Higher Heights showed up again. 2 days, this Saturday, this Sunday. Cliff, y'all are going to be on the ground. Where are y'all next, Cliff?
Actually, we got a few things going on this weekend. I'm going to be joining our bus. We got our bus tour going on. We got 2 buses going all around the country, and I'm going to be joining a bus that we could have in Wisconsin. And so we're going to be in Milwaukee for 3 days, Roland. You know the importance of Milwaukee. You've talked a lot about, black voters there. And so we'll be there. And then here in Georgia, we're actually doing a concert along with Attorney Crump. It's called Jam for Justice. And we're going to be out there. We're doing that actually on our PAC side, right? We got our nonprofit side, but then we have separate another side where we can be more partisan. And so that's going to be on our PAC side. We'll be out there having a concert, and it's going to be a party with a purpose, giving out some good information to folks, showing them some of those video ads that you were just talking about that we've been putting out, and just trying to get this job done.
And then Roland,
Glynda Carr, we still appreciate it. Thanks. Yep, go ahead. Glynda, go ahead.
I was going to say the significance of, I just want to share the significance of the tour dates that we're doing. It is down the Eastern Seaboard because black women have made major gains in elected office. So we're leaving Brooklyn, which is the birthplace of Shirley Chisholm, who has built this moment. We're stopping off in Newark, New Jersey to meet with the newly sworn in Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, who took over after the unfortunate death of Donald Payne. We're stopping off in Pennsylvania, stumping for Harris Walls. And then we have to deliver a representative democracy in Washington and bringing black women to the U.S. Senate. And so Delaware and Maryland have competitive races to allow us to bring black women to the U.S. Senate. So we're stopping to stump for those 2 black women running for U.S. Senate.
All right. Great work. We still appreciate it. Thanks a lot. We'll keep pushing it out.
Thanks.
Let me thank Derek and and Rebecca as well for being on our panel there. I'm going to go to a break. We got a second panel here in Philadelphia. Continue our conversation. We're talking about this election. And if you're watching, first thing I need you to do is check your registration status. And also check those around you to see if they are registered. Go to iwillvote.com because we have people who are now finding out they voted early this year and somehow they got kicked off the ballot, off the rolls. That's happening in different states. So go ahead and do that. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network live here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. America's ready for a new chapter. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
There's nothing socialist about Kamala Harris.
Trump says Harris is a radical. I don't buy it.
Conservatives have a supermajority on the Supreme Court.
With a likely Republican Senate, those checks and balances will keep our country sane.
If Trump wins, he could end up with total control. I'm a conservative. I don't agree with Harris on everything, but she was a tough prosecutor and she put bad guys in prison.
I voted for Donald Trump 3 times. I'm voting for Kamala Harris in November.
And I'm voting for Kamala Harris this fall.
Winners never back down from a challenge. Champions know it's anytime, any place. But losers may whine and waffle and take their ball home.
Trump now refusing to debate a second time.
He did terribly in the last debate. He's so easily triggered by Kamala Harris.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. If you've got something to say it to my face.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message. He told us who he was.
Should abortion be punished? There has to be some form of punishment.
Then he showed us.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Now Donald Trump wants to go further with plans to restrict birth control, ban abortion nationwide, even monitor women's pregnancies. We know who Donald Trump is. He'll take control. We'll pay the price. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
In 2016, Donald Trump said he would choose only the best people to work in his White House. Now those people have a warning for America. Trump is not fit to be president again. Here's his vice president.
Anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year.
His defense secretary.
Do you think Trump can be trusted with the nation's secrets ever again?
No. I mean, it's just irresponsible action that places our service members at risk, places our nation's security at risk.
His national security advisor.
Donald Trump will cause a lot of damage. The only thing he cares about is Donald Trump.
And the nation's highest-ranking military officer.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Take it from the people who knew him best. Donald Trump is a danger to our troops and our democracy. We can't let him lead our country again.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks. folks, welcome back to Sharon Baptist Church here in Philadelphia. We continue our conversation with our next panel. Sitting in the hot chairs, State Representative Morgan Cephas, Representative Jordan Harris, State Senator Sharif Street, Representative Greg Scott. So where I want to pick up on, again, look, I've been dealing with politicians my entire life. My parents were founders of a city club, and so I understand politics absolutely from a grassroots level. So in terms of when you're dealing with issues, when you're trying to get laws passed, when you're trying to access funding, how are you communicating with groups? Who are you communicating with to activate people when you say, hey, I need y'all calling and writing. I need you at committee hearings. I need you coming to the state capitol. Walk me through what you are doing to make that a reality.
Absolutely. I think it's a great question, particularly.
Yeah, it is. I know. I asked it.
Oh, I know. You are great.
I mean, I'm in 4 Hall of Fames. I mean,
I
kind of ask good questions. I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
I love it. So as legislators, we have to, and similar to your previous panel, it really came up, is that we have to meet people where they are. And we also have to listen to individuals if we're not doing the job that they expect us to do, and work with them to make sure that we're improving and moving the needle. Because one thing I'm a firm believer on is that progress doesn't necessarily mean movement. And if you're not making movement, then you shouldn't be in the seat. And, one of the things that, my colleagues up here, we realize when we're not in the majority, that doesn't mean that we don't tackle the issues specifically happening here in the city of Philadelphia. We just have to find a roundabout way to get to what solution that we need. And, one of the areas that I'll use that I spent, some of my work, and I've been in the legislature for about 8 years now, I'm in my 4th term, is the issue around maternal mortality. And I was very excited to hear you all bring it up. But this is the first term I've ever spent in the majority. But previous to this, I was able to ensure that we spent $25 million of ARPA funding that came to our Democratic governor on Black maternal businesses and organizations that are actually on the ground. And one of the reasons why we were able to do that is because one of the Black female-led organizations said verbatim, give the dollars to the people that are on the ground, show us how to access them, provide the resources and, the toolkits in order to access those dollars. And that is something that we just actually did. And, outside of providing funding, we were able to work with our governor to extend Medicaid up to a year postpartum, where we see a good majority of the deaths happening, 51% here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that was done through the policy process. And again, we weren't able to move legislation at least until this legislative cycle. And again, I've been in 8 years, so it has taken some time, but it's critical for elected officials to find every which way to tackle the challenges that we have to tackle.
But the thing that I keep trying to tell people, you can't operate alone. I tell people, I cover City Hall, I cover county government, and I've always said, people trust me. When 100, 200, 300 folks show up, legislators go, who them people? That's the first. They like, who these folks showing up? And then when you keep showing up, they start counting them voters. And that's what I'm always trying to explain to our people, how the political process works. So it can't just be, oh, I voted for you, and you go and work. No. You still gotta have that support. So for you, walk me through in terms of your process. How are you communicating with groups, organizations saying, hey, I need your help to get this done, not just me talking by myself?
Well, I think the first thing is we can't assume people understand the process because what I've seen, and I say this as a former social studies teacher, I taught here in Philadelphia, is that a lot of our young people aren't taught civics in school. So those young people become adults who don't...
Or middle-aged or older people. It's a bunch of folk don't know.
True, but those young people, they become adults and they don't understand the political process. So, you get people calling, your state legislator about Social Security.
Like, that's
the federal.
That's federal.
But people don't understand it. They go to the name they know. They go to the person that they see the most. So I think the first thing is we have to understand that there has to be an education process with many of folks in our community around politics and political engagement. That's the first thing. I think also, and I agree with Morgan, we have to meet people where they are. So for me, we door knock. we go to church, we go to the bar, we are on social media. We use all of those tools to engage people and talk to them about the issues that matter to them. But then we also have to, when they get engaged, we have to show them progress and we have to show them results. I think a lot of times what happens is people get disengaged or disillusioned because they have heard, this election is the most important, this is this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then their life hasn't changed. The situation that they've been coming to some of their elected officials for decades has not changed. So they are disillusioned about a political process that we want them to be engaged in. So I think you have to educate them. You have to meet them where they are. You have to build a rapport and a relationship with them. But most importantly, you have to deliver. And once you begin to deliver, you become a trusted voice of those folks. They'll follow you anywhere. You can take them anywhere because to them, they see you as somebody who understood, who heard, but who made a difference and brought change to their community.
No, yeah, I agree. Certainly agree with what's been said. We knock on doors, you talk to people, but then you go into the spaces and the places where you find people, and you got to recruit those folks who do understand to be engaged and involved in the process. When black and brown communities were not getting the resources around PPP, the first thing we did, and Rep, you were part of this, we had to convene black barbershop owners and beauty salon owners first, because we convened about 120 of them, got them on a call on a regular basis, and then said, look, we're going to have to educate folks. We're going to need to demand and get money for a state product. So we're able to push out $125 million.
Because for most of the people didn't understand is when the initial PPP, you were able to get that if you had full-time employees. What ended up happening on the federal level was, this is why when Biden-Harris came in, it was happening somewhat when Trump was there with Steve Mnuchin and others, because Robert Smith was working with the National Bankers Association. They didn't understand that first of all, 95% of black businesses do $5 million or less in revenue. Most of these people had 1099s, not full-time employees.
Right.
And so that's what happened. So the CBC on the federal level, when Biden-Harris came in, say, hey, then they created a secondary round and they changed some of the rules to allow folk to be able to do that. But that was a big thing. Black people were like, man, we ain't getting no money. How many full-time employees you have? Well, I got one.
Well,
but you also have banks not lending.
Yeah. Oh, no, that was happening. Oh, yeah.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
The other part of it was exactly that. Look, the banks, we put the money was at the federal level originally pushed out through banks. Those banks went through the people that they were used to doing business with, used to extending loans with. Our folks were not banked in that way with those folks, and if they were not the primary.
They had checking accounts. They didn't have
lines of credit.
There you go.
And so what happened was we were able to get the Community Development Financial Institutions, CDFIs, engaged. We were able to set up a process where they could be engaged and involved in that process. Explained to the black barbershops and beauty salon owners how they could get there, and then we were able to get them money. But the reality was, once we got those folks money, then they become trusted messengers we can use to push out, because we've established a measure of credibility. Fast forward, we were then able to get those barbershop beauty salon owners. We helped organize them when we wanted to fight for violence prevention dollars. Again, at this point, we didn't have control of the House or the Senate, but we did have a governor, and get the governor engaged with that. We were able to put out, I guess we got $300 million in violence prevention money in the initial year. We pushed it out. Then we needed to make sure that money could get in the hands of the people that were on the ground doing the work. Because one of the number one issues that black men are concerned about, where we are impacted in a way that is different than everyone else, is we're the ones most likely to die and get incarcerated for murder. We're on both sides of the gun. And so making sure that we were talking to the people who were talking to those folks was important. Now, we got to go back to those folks and make sure they're engaged in the political process. But that's a big part of how we establish credibility.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to also just lift up, too, the fact that we've got and I know you've dealt with a lot of politicians, but these politicians here happen to be leaders in our government here. So we got Morgan Cephas, who's the chair of our Oversight Committee, to chair the Philadelphia delegation. We have Jordan Harris, who's the chairman of our Appropriations Committee, overseeing a $44 billion budget. We got Sharif Street, who's also the chair of the Pennsylvania Democrats. And I think the 2 years that our Democratic majority has been in power, we've actually delivered a government that works for working class people for real.
But I want you to hold that point. You hold a point because people need to understand. You're only chairs because you have control of the House.
That's correct. Absolutely.
And so for folks who are listening, there you go, by one seat. What people don't understand is if Democrats take control of the House in January, then you will have a black Speaker of the House.
Hakeem Jeffrey.
But two, the CBC, you literally have 60 members. It's the largest caucus on the Democratic side. So for people, again, who don't understand the process, when you're the chair, you're controlling the gavel.
That's correct.
You're controlling. I mean, your power is a hell of a lot more is bigger than it is when you're the minority leader or the ranking minority member. And so that's one of those, again, nuances of politics. When folk go, oh man, I don't really see the difference. I'm like, no. So that opportunity district in Alabama, Shamari figures, the opportunity district in Louisiana, those two could determine control of the U.S. House. But that's the minutia of politics a lot of folk don't understand, but there's a big difference being the chair of a committee and then being the ranking minority member of a committee.
1,000%, and you're absolutely right. But and I also want to point out that all these folks are under the age of 40, right? And so they can communicate to folks in a different way.
I just turned 40 2 weeks ago.
But 40 and under.
40 and under.
And I bring it up because you talk about how do we communicate. We got to rep this on TikTok. We can meet people where they are. We go out to schools and we talk to people. And in fact, we did what you tell them to do. We went to Lincoln University, those of us collectively and individually, and we speak at their schools. We speak at colleges and universities all across the Commonwealth. And we give the speech that you gave down in Atlanta. And we told those young people, if you want to see change, to get involved. And what happened this past budget cycle? Lincoln University, we call them the Freedom 14, marched 66 miles. 66 miles from Lincoln's campus to Harrisburg to advocate for increased funding for state-related and state-funded institutions. Mind you, they got the smallest amount from all the other. Pitt, Penn State, who have constituencies that don't look like us, larger population.
Man, we just say on this show, they white.
Yeah.
Why? You almost choked. They white. It's a lot quicker. It's a lot easier.
I think it's important to look, when you look at a Penn State football game and the power that they should hold in that building, they couldn't get that bill to move, right? But it was those 14 kids that marched from Lincoln University all the way up to the state capitol, held court in the rotunda of the Capitol, where all of the legislators that don't look like them, that don't come from their neighborhoods, that don't have the same political perspectives or ideologies, they saw those black babies. They saw those young kings and queens standing on those steps speaking truth to power, and we had no other option but not to ignore them. Right? And so we did, and we delivered a budget. We delivered funding for those institutions, and they happened to get the smallest piece, but it couldn't have been done without them. So I get what you're saying. I think there's a lot that we got to talk about, and I know you, like me, don't like to talk about the problem, but we are delivering solutions, and we're communicating effectively. Could we do more? Absolutely.
But you're again, but this is, and I just make it plain. The reality is, for all the people out there who Democrats ain't this, ain't that. Again, I don't get involved in those conversations. I get involved in what actually happened. So here's the question. You say it took 8 years. If Republicans were in control of the House, does that black maternal money come?
Absolutely.
Yes or no?
Yes.
It happens.
It happens.
If Republicans were in control.
Yes.
Gotcha. If Republicans were in control, does that money come for them?
Look, I think we get it with Republicans' controls. We've controlled the governor's office. The reality is we've used our leverage of having the governor's office.
Right.
But what I'm saying, to your larger point, if Republicans were in total control of state government, absolutely not. The money doesn't get there. The money gets there because of the leverage we have as Democrats. And I'll say,
but I do want to add this one thing, because I do think it gets there if Republicans are in control, because black maternal health is maternal health. It's not just black women dying. Black women are dying in urban settings, suburban settings, as well as rural settings.
So that's here in
our job,
Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania. And because we don't have the option to fail as leaders and not to address the challenges in our communities, we have to work across the aisle. And I will have Jordan Harris, he is the leader in this with criminal justice reform, has worked across the aisle to, and I'll let him talk about it, but has done tremendous work in the city of Philadelphia, across this Commonwealth, is a model across the country because he had to work with Republicans both in the Senate and the House. So because we don't have the option to fail, if it is Republican control, we will figure out a way how to get there, and that's by building.
The reason I brought that up.
We wouldn't have Joe McClain, and we wouldn't have indigent defense. We wouldn't have public defenders.
Right, but the reason I brought that up, because I need people to understand, when all those women, white women, went to Tennessee State Capitol after that school shooting, the first bill the Republicans passed gave immunity to the gun lobby. In Georgia, no. But I'm making the point for people who are watching to understand that there are very few states where you actually have bipartisan legislation.
Right, rolling up.
So when you start talking about Arkansas, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, you have Democrats who are largely ignored, which means a lot of the stuff that black people care about gets ignored. And so that's what you're dealing with. And so people need to understand it makes a difference, not even just if Republicans have if they have a supermajority. If in Texas, if they go from a supermajority to a majority, it changes public policy.
Right, Roland, that's what I was that's the point I was going to make. So you're right. In Pennsylvania, while Democrats haven't always been in control, we have not been in a position where we didn't have political leverage like you're talking about in the South. We had a governor, and even in the legislature, we have the margins are close enough where Republicans need.
They got to talk to you.
They got to talk to us. If we were to go to a place where they had supermajorities, when you look at those states, they are not able to get it. It is us horse trading our votes. It's us making deals. It is us saying we won't move forward with this if you don't move forward with that. You need our votes for rural health care, which is an issue. We need your votes for urban health care. You need our votes for on issues that are important to you. We need your voice. But the voices that are championing issues for black people are almost exclusively Democrats. Now, that doesn't mean we don't work with Republicans to get it done, because in Pennsylvania, if it's not bipartisan, it doesn't become the law. But they're putting different issues on the table. We're the ones advancing those issues. We're the ones that said we needed money for gun violence. They had other priorities. We gave them some of their priorities in exchange for gun violence. And I think, and it is consistent that we're the ones delivering on their issues.
Right. And so the reason that needs to be understood, because when I listen to some of these loudmouth YouTube, TikTok, Instagram PhDs, when they threw out ain't nothing changed, Democrats not going to do jack, both of them are the exact same, Republicans and Democrats, I then go, okay, so then what? And so when they throw this stuff out there and then people hear it, then they start parroting that. And then when you start walking them through, like, no, this is actually what happens. This is why when I challenge people on, no, what are your issues? Then you have to then go, who's delivering on your issues? Right. There are some issues listen, I remember in Illinois, the Democrats were not appointing enough, I forgot the type of judges. A number of black folks said, we're going to get behind the Republican governor. And he actually appointed a number of black judges. The Democrats were like, what they have? Oh, because you're ignoring these black folks. That was where they said, we want this to happen, then you didn't deliver. But too many people, if they get caught up in what they hear about some of these crazy people out here, not understanding that politics is real. Politics is literally about delivering. We're talking billions upon billions of dollars that are being spent on the federal, trillions of dollars on the federal level, the state level, the county level, the city level, the school district level. And if you are not engaged in that process, you are not going to get any of those resources. And so this is where I think we just have to constantly walk people through so they understand that if you choose to check out, you can't cash in.
So I agree, but I think before you do that, you actually have to listen to them and you have to validate their issues and their pain and their concerns. Because, for example, I heard the whole, brothers ain't voting for Kamala. Well, that's not true, and I think we need to stop that narrative. The second largest, most dependable vote for the Democratic Party is black males. So it's black women first, and then it's black males.
Right.
So we have to stop allowing people to create this narrative that brothers ain't voting for Kamala.
Let me finish. But if it goes from 12 to 20, that 8%.
Let me finish. It's not that black males don't want to vote for Kamala, but many brothers are disenfranchised about the party that they felt has left them.
Okay.
It actually has nothing to do with Kamala in many instances. It's a lot of brothers who feel like their issues have not been heard. Now, I heard what you said about, well, what are the issues? Well, I could give you a litany of those, but here's the thing.
Give me 3.
Sure. Criminal justice reform, access to capital and housing. So here's the thing.
So they say those 3 didn't happen?
They say they don't feel it. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Whether you believe they're wrong or not listening to them,
right,
not validating their feelings doesn't make them show up.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. When they give you those 3, what's your response?
So my response is, well, in Pennsylvania, I could talk about criminal.
No.
Go ahead.
No, if they asked you, Biden Harris did not deliver on those 3 things, what's your response?
If I'm being honest, I would say that we could have done more on criminal justice.
No, that's not an answer.
You asked me a question about.
No, you said we could have done more. So what did you do?
Yes. What do you mean?
When you say we could have done more, that means you did something, but you could have done more. What specifically do you say to them that was done?
Oh, well, I was going to tell you. You didn't let me. So in Pennsylvania.
No, I need the federal.
I'm going to tell you about Pennsylvania because the federal government actually followed what we did here in Pennsylvania.
But if they ask you, what did Biden Harris do? Not Pennsylvania.
I'm going to start at Pennsylvania so they can have a connection to what I'm talking about because I'm talking to them. Okay. And what I was going to tell them is what I did in Pennsylvania that they followed at the federal level. So we would talk about, pushing on clean slate. We would talk about all of those things that are happening at the federal level that started here in Pennsylvania. Reason why I'm starting here so I can connect with those brothers. When we talk about access to capital, we'll talk about how the Small Business Administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has done a tremendous job of actually providing more access to capital to small minority businesses than the Trump administration. And when we talk about housing, I will talk about HUD and the things that Marcia Fudge did at HUD to change the trajectory of black males becoming homeowners, but also about black males being able to live with their families in public housing.
So when they say small businesses, you said minorities, they say that's minorities, not black. What do you think?
I agree with them that we actually need to drill down and talk more about African Americans, but I also tell them that we have had substantial increases in black and brown folks getting federal dollars to help them start their businesses. My point is this, though, because I can argue with the brothers, but I start that argument by validating their emotions, their feelings, and their points. And that's what I feel like a lot of times people aren't doing. We gloss over it, tell them that they're wrong, but don't understand that if you just went home and weren't able to feed your child the night before, everything else that you said doesn't matter to them. So we have to validate their points, right? That's first. And then we can educate them on why this matters. So I'll end where I started. I don't really believe this is a Kamala thing. I believe this is brothers feeling like the party has left them, that government has not been in favor of them, and they feel left out. So we have to educate them on what's going on, what's happening, and why they need to stay engaged.
So here's why it is a Kamala.
Roland,
it's in the data.
But I want to.
Go ahead, because I'm going to tell you about what Terrence Woodbury has been showing in the data, where it is also a Kamala thing. But go ahead.
Well, look, I mean, so. Right now, and look, I'm chair of the party. I get data, but also understand that the data has been consistently wrong, at least in this state, as to what black folks are going to do and how Democrats are going to perform. The data said that we were going to lose the Senate race in 2022.
Right. That was the white data.
No, hold on.
Black data.
I'm talking about I'm black and white data, brother.
Right.
Because I'm black and I'm chair of the party, and I understand about black data too. But the data said we weren't going to show up. We did. Black folks showed up. We won. The data said that we could not elect a black sister to be on the appellate court last year in 2023. Black folks swept. Democrats swept with consistent black votes all those seats. And the data says again we won't show up. So The data that you can look at prospective data about what's going to happen. What I'm talking about is the reflective data about what has in fact happened. The reality is black men are the second most reliable for black people. The data they consistently talk about what people think is going to happen with respect to black folks. I think that black men are going to show up. I do believe that, as Jordan said, we have to talk about it. The second thing is, when we talk about what the Democratic Party is, we cannot disconnect what the Democratic Party is from Jordan Harris, from Morgan, from me, because the reality is we're the portions of the Democratic Party they are most likely to interact with. Therefore, when we talk about the fact that Representative Harris showed up with a check for your barbershop to stay open, we need to then connect that to, we got that money because the Biden-Harris administration sent us that money. That is the connection part we need to say. When you talk about the fact that there were violence interrupters that got money, and we say Wiley Smith, who's in the audience, his program received some resources, we need to say that money was received because Biden-Harris. We talk about housing, we can say that, look, if you're in North Philadelphia, Sharswood, there are hundreds of additional houses, black folk living in them, funded by the federal government, but they see PHA. The way federal money operates, it doesn't tend to be in a way that people directly connect to it. Right. So it's part of our job to do it. And the second part of it is, part of what black men are saying to us in the party, and I've said this to folks, they want to be courted like everybody else. We spend tons of time as a party figuring out how we're going to get white soccer moms to vote, how we're going to get working class white dads to vote, how we're going to get this demographic or that demographic to vote. What they're saying is, talk to us too, and I think we have an obligation to do that. I think we have a good story to tell, but we have to tell it.
Right. So when I look at, I mentioned, I'm going to come to you. Hold on. So Terrence Woodbury, hit strategist, who does not public polling, but public opinion. Constant focus groups for the last 3.5 years. When he would talk to brothers, litany of problems. Litany, I don't see this, don't see that. This has not been addressed, has not been addressed, has not been addressed. But then when they come back with the actual information, this was done, all of a sudden, focus group changes, which means messaging and who's giving the information. So the disconnect is, if one, the conversation is not being had, two, if the information is not being supplied very specifically and not having the general emotional, this is my perception of things, then all of a sudden it changes. That now means, going back to, how then are they being communicated with? And in what areas? Which we said last night and here, if we are not having, not just with you, but other groups, if those things are not happening on a regular basis, every week, multiple times a week, then our people are not getting the information immediately in real time, not around the election. And so now you're not building up 3, 6, 9, 12 months of, I ain't seen nothing. That to me is what has to happen. So once the election is over, then it's okay, how are we consistently communicating with people in a very broad way so we make sure that that doesn't happen? And that's what when I'm talking to Cornell Belcher, and I'm talking to Terrence, and I'm talking to black pollsters and black researchers, my deal is, what are they actually saying? Terrence told us something in 2020. He said, we got to stop using the phrase voter suppression. I went, Terrence, why? He said, because in our focus groups, he said, 18 to 45, when they hear voter suppression, they immediately think civil rights movement, even though that's present day. He said, but if we tell them they're closing your voting locations, that immediately resonates with them in a different way. So that's why I was talking about the data, how then we communicate with messages. And it was really interesting having him break it down, because everybody was using voter suppression, and he was like, don't say voter suppression, because this group, that's a complete turnoff compared to 46 higher. But that's why that black specific data is important. Unfortunately, your white Democratic strategists are always listening to the black data.
I don't disagree with you. And let me give you a prime example. Let me give you a prime example of where we are current day. when the vice president talks about her work as AG, right, and we do the comparison with Donald Trump, when you use the term felon, okay, and you use that, it triggers and turns off a lot of black men, okay, because many of those brothers that we're trying to get to vote, they have felonies, right? And so changing that terminology, you can still make the same point, but change it. Because here's the thing. Donald Trump is not the same as your son or your daughter or your cousin who got locked up. They're not the same. The way he's been treated and the way they've been treated, it's just not the same. Y'all not the same. But here's the thing. The best track is out there. They not like us. You could easily use that to talk to black male. He not like us. But nobody, hold on, seriously. Nobody is actually breaking it down in that way. So sometimes when folks hear that felony thing, they get turned off because it's like, well, wait a minute. And you talking about going to the barbershops? Well, where do you think they at? That's exactly who you talking to. So I agree with you. You're right. I agree with you on the fact that sometimes it's not even sometimes what we say, but it's how we say it.
But see, but when they use using that phrase, they ain't talking to us. They talking to that 70% of white voters who in the electorate.
The one other point I want to make real quick is the other thing is the Democratic Party. We've got to get reflective about who we spend and do business with. I will tell you, I got an ugly fight, and a bunch of folks in the national press criticized me when I took over, primarily because I fired.
We all remember.
I fired some white vendors, and I hired a black communications company, and there were folks that they wanted me to fire them. I said I will not fire them. I was elected chair of the party, and we need this to win. The fact is we kept them, TML strategies, Teresa Lynn, and she has been communicating. And if it were not for the fact that we had done that, we probably wouldn't have gotten the level of engagement, because it's not just the policies. We have to have the professionals who understand how to communicate to our people. And white communicators can't always do that. So yes, we need a strategy to communicate to those. That will always happen. They're the majority population, but we need to also make sure that we're communicating to black folks in a way that black folks understand.
I've been giving them hell on that on every show for the last 15, 20 years. So trust me, the white strategists don't like when my name comes in any meeting. Y'all think I'm lying. Because, see, I put your picture on the air. I don't talk in general terms. You don't return my email, I'm going to put your name out there and your picture, especially the people at Future Forward PAC who still ain't returned my emails. Oh, y'all thought I forgot. I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
So the only thing I would add.
Oh, no, I'm that one.
Oh, no, I get it.
See, they forget, I own the show.
You'll get a response.
I ain't got no boss. There's God, then me. There ain't nobody above me.
I love that.
So
one of the things I would say, I feel like black women were having this same conversation around the time Hillary Clinton was running, because I teamed up with Senator Bob Casey, who wanted to have a conversation specifically with black women, because at the time we too were feeling like black men, is that you use our bodies to get to the polls. We are the foundation of the Democratic Party, but yet when you get elected, our issues don't show up in your agenda. You don't prioritize them. You're not moving the needle on those specific issues. Then you're circling back asking us for our support again. So we were adamant that election cycle. We wanted a black VP. We wanted a black female VP. We wanted a black not around that time, but this time around with Joe Biden, we wanted a black female vice president. We wanted a black female Supreme Court.
Go back to 16 though. What happened in January 2017? What did y'all do?
We organized, we mobilized, and ensured
a bunch of y'all wrote a letter.
We did.
Went to the chair of the DNC.
Yes.
Tom Perez.
Yes.
And was like, it's time for a conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, but let me say it again. What did y'all do? Y'all organized. Yes. Y'all mobilized. You wrote a letter. You demanded a meeting, and you got the meeting.
But the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of the policy issues that we wanted to see in the next iteration of the administration, we saw student loan debt forgiveness. I'm a geriatric millennial along with my brother Jordan Harris.
Why you got me in it? If you want to call yourself old, do it. Don't bring me in it.
Because y'all on the high end of millennial, the low end of Gen X. Y'all closer to Gen X than y'all are to Gen Z. Stop tripping.
Don't do that.
Stop tripping.
No, I bring that up because never in my lifetime did I think...
Love trying to claim, oh, we millennial. Y'all right above Gen X.
But I never thought that I would see us having a real conversation about student loan debt. And that was a top priority for Black women at that time. And I think, when we're talking about Black men when we're talking about Black men wanting to see themselves in the policy agenda, that is what we need to do. So when we're talking about the cost of living being high, being a top priority, I know you talked about maternal mortality and maternal health and not necessarily talking about paternal health. You literally have Senator Warnock that just introduced a legislation, bipartisan, around specifically addressing dads that are absolutely impacted by maternal mortality. If they want to see themselves in that way in their agenda, it shouldn't be a us versus them and them taking away the, presence of female-related issues. So I think similar to what we were doing over the past several years, I think Black men, it is their time to demand themselves to see themselves in the agenda.
Yeah, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again till I'm blue in the face. Y'all saw a problem. Y'all organized. Y'all mobilized. Y'all wrote a letter. You signed the letter. You sent the letter. You demanded the meeting. And you got the meeting. What I keep saying to brothers, if all you do is complain about it, but you don't organize, you don't mobilize, you don't write the letter, you don't sign the letter, you don't send the letter, ain't nobody gonna meet with you.
But the point is that we had that conversation in 2017. Black men are having that conversation, and so we should see some traction as a result of them having the conversation.
Let me say it again.
Don't agonize.
Because they had the conversation. I'm telling you, I know what my text messages show.
I was there.
I know what text messages show. In 2020, man, these sisters having a call every Sunday. And I was like, so can we. I know who I sent the text message to. I can name 12 of them. Did anything happen after that? No. Do you know why? Because in our community, typically when a meeting is organized, the sisters organize it.
That just sounds like a call to action.
No. It sounds like calling brothers out because, so what I keep saying is people are like, man, why you got to be so cold? Because I keep saying to brothers, you cannot keep complaining about somebody not hearing you if you're unwilling to mobilize and organize yourself to force them to hear you. So again, next week, the 29th anniversary of the Million Man March. Look, the fundamental, I'll let you make this point, but I'm walking through historically. The fundamental problem that brothers have had is we have organized for moments. We have not organized movements. And as long as we organize for a meeting or a couple of meetings, as opposed to over the year, 2, 3, 4 years, you're not going to see the change. And so that's the challenge I keep pushing. Even now with Win with Black Men. Brothers keep saying, man, I was on the call. Brother, that was in July. We've had 4 since. Have you been on those? Man, it's been a lot. I'm like, no, but you haven't been on one of them. And so this is where I think we just have to be honest with brothers and say, if you want to see something change, what you going to do?
Well, look,
go ahead.
Look, I certainly everybody getting more engaged is real. But the other thing is 2 things. One, I don't think that Black male disengagement is as high. There are a lot of very angry, very well-heard young brothers who the press is putting a lot of attention on. I think that's true. Second thing I want to say is this. I don't know that the best strategy for a Black community is Black women are going to go over here and organize, Black men are going to go over here and organize. I think that the issues that affect our community are Black people issues, they're family issues, and even if other communities are doing it that way, that there's no reason we have to do it that way.
No, hold up. I got to disagree with you on that one. Black people organizing based upon are you down with doing something about it? If I bring up Bishop right now and asked him, What's the difference between your women's ministry and your men's ministry? When your women have their retreat, how different is their women's retreat from the men's retreat? Now, see, if we want to, all I'm saying is this here. If brothers want to be heard and brothers want to be talked to, then they got to do exactly what the sisters did in 2017.
But then don't ask them to vote.
Huh?
But then don't ask them to vote.
What if they just need a different venue?
But wait, hold on. Then don't ask them to vote then. Like, if we're going to sit here and make it seem like brothers don't do this, brothers don't do that, cool. That's fine. If they, then don't ask them to vote. It's like we're asking them to, we are asking them for something, right? So
actually, I'm asking them for something. I'm asking them to be engaged in this process to get something.
That's not what I hear what you're saying. But you're also asking them to show up to the poll. So what I'm also saying, and I'm not disagreeing
before the polls.
Well, I'm not saying that I'm not disagreeing that we can do a better job of organizing. But what I am saying is you're asking them to do something now. All that stuff we talking about is, organizing after the fall. And I'm with you. If you want to do, I didn't get text message.
Actually, I've been asking them for 6 years.
Okay, well,
this ain't.
Hold on.
This ain't just around the election.
Cool. I didn't get the text message. And in
No. I said you want one of the 12. I know the 12 who won.
I can't talk about anywhere else, but in Pennsylvania, we do organize. We do get stuff done, which is why we have a black woman who's speaker. Yes. Which is why you have a black man who.
So let me give you.
Why you have a black.
Right. So let me give you data. So when you talk about the numbers, here's what happened in North Carolina. When Tom Tillis was running for United States Senate, this is 2020, Tillis got 18% of the black male vote because of the percentage that Trump got. So when you look at that race, how did Tillis win? That 18% of black male vote made a difference. The Republicans are not trying to get 30% of black men.
Agreed.
They're not trying to do that. Their whole deal is if I can pick up 15, 16, 18, 20, then we know with voter suppression how they're operating, then I'm lowering the margins. What I am saying is that, and I've been saying this since 2012, because in 2012 there was a 9-point gap between black men and black women. That was Obama-Romney. Obama got 95% of the black male vote in 2008. He got Republicans got 11, so 5% of the black brothers voted for McCain in 2008. It was 11% in 2012. It went up 6 points. So I was saying in 2012, DNC, I can show you that the message that went to all the DNC chairs. The last three are saying, I'm telling y'all, if you ignore this, the number's going to go up. What they're looking at is our specific states. So you go North Carolina, rural. If Democrats, if they don't go to East North Carolina, they're going to lose. There have been 16 trips made to Western North Carolina by the Vice President, not one to East North Carolina. East North Carolina has the largest black counties. The reason Warnock won Georgia in 2020 because they drove black participation in rural counties in Georgia, not just Atlanta. So and this is from a data standpoint. And so what we're seeing is that your engagement has to be totally different. What Black Voters Matter is doing is recognizing that, yes, they're mobilizing black people total, but they also recognize I got to have a black male specific strategy because my conversation with them is going to be different.
But you agreeing to us.
No.
That's what I've been talking about.
I'm only saying, but as an organization, not politicians, that's what they're doing. So what I'm saying is to black organizations, we have to take all this black organizational infrastructure and mobilize it accordingly to now be able to reach folk there who are not politicians. So that's what I.
But again, but you're pointing out, you're making the point that each demographic and each group is not a monolith. So if you just look at it from a generational perspective, as a politician, I'm going to approach the baby boomers with a chat and chew. I'm going to go to Gen X and millennials with a day party. And with Gen Z, I'm going to do a TikTok.
And the reason,
I think that's how you have to treat black men. If obviously it's not working to do a call every week, I don't even have a time for a call every week. I think I've been on maybe one or two of the Black Women Lead calls because that's just not how my life is structured.
Right.
But meet them where they are. If it's obviously not working because you've been doing it year after year after year, pivot to something else.
But what he said is, which goes to the difference in terms of who's a leader. The strategy of hitting black people all in one way has been the same because it's largely white Democratic strategists who are releasing the funds. So what is happening on even on the federal level, You're still having those strategies in place, not listening to the black folks. Some of those calls have been a trip the last 10 months. And so what then ends up happening is that strategy stays the same. There's even frustration. I got a phone call today because even some of your most highest ranked black people have been going off because of it's the same strategy. What I keep saying on the show is the further you get away from the black civil rights movement, you have to micro-target black people.
Agreed.
And so what is happening is what you're going to see, I hope I come out of this, is a completely different understanding of strategy, because you have to actually spend more to get black folks, but you have to talk to black people in multiple ways versus just, I can hit the church, NAACP, I can hit them over 5 weeks, we good. That may have worked in 84, may have worked in 94. No, I understand that. But what's interesting, the strategists who are controlling the money, and then the donors still think it's the old model versus the new model.
That might be the conversation
and that may be about that may be about a conversation in some places. One of the things that have happened
in about 49 states.
Yeah, well, one of the things that has happened. Fortunately, in the one that's most likely to determine the election, it's a little different, which is in this state we have made it very clear that we're going to have to spend money differently, and it's also very clear that DNC's ability to spend money must run through the state party. The way federal laws are structured there, and so we have a role. We have been making it very clear you have to spend money differently, and we have people in leadership that have supported that. We have a black speaker, we have a black appropriations chair, we have a black party chair, and what we have been saying is, with black lieutenant governor, we've been saying is, look, this will benefit black folks, this will also benefit white folks, white Democrats in particular. When we look at, we understand it's not just Philly and Pittsburgh. In Pennsylvania, there are 11 major jurisdictions where we've got to spend money with black folks, which include Reading, includes Lancaster, includes Hazleton, includes Allentown, includes Bethlehem, includes Harrisburg, it includes Erie. So it's not just, it includes Aliquippa, but there are a lot of places that it includes.
Right.
We've been indexed, we've looked at it, and we realize we have to spend money in those ways. I can't speak to what's going on in North Carolina, but what I can tell you is that we've been very clear about what has to happen. There needs to be a level of engagement. And what Jordan was talking about before, we've also made it clear is you can't lead with talking about the federal stuff because they don't understand it. It's too far removed. We have to start our conversation with what we did at the state and local level and then back into why Biden-Harris matters. One thing that I will say is, while our folks, particularly black men, may not know what to believe when they see on the internet, they do know who to believe. They know they came to this man's office and they got some help. They know they came to this man's office and they got some help. We need to then say our credibility is, one of the things that I appreciate from a conversation with Congresswoman Crockett said, she said we sometimes it's about asking them to vote for you, support me, support what I'm doing, support Sharif Street by voting for Kamala Harris, because you know you're going to get some help from me. You came to me last week.
Right.
You come to me next week. Who do you think is going to talk to me? It ain't Donald Trump.
I remember
what he said.
I remember Alphonso Jackson. So Alphonso Jackson, black Republican, he was running the Dallas Housing Authority. So George W. Bush was running. So Alphonso, they had a fundraiser in St. Louis. And Alphonso, they were like, so he's talking, so the brothers, they like, look, Alphonso, we don't know him, but we know you. So we write this check, and then don't nothing happen. We coming to talk to you. And Alphonso was like, all right, I'll accept that. And in fact, one of the reasons why the white folks ran him out as Secretary of HUD was because when he became Secretary of HUD, he changed the contracting rules. And a lot of those white contractors were real upset because he created opportunities for black contractors, which is one of the reasons why they forced him to resign. But I'll never forget, but that was the conversation he had. They were like, listen, we don't know him. So when I write this check, I'm going to come to you if something don't happen. And he was like, okay, I'm going to take on all that pressure. Y'all coming to me. But that has to happen. And we have to have those. But I just really want us on a macro level to be forcing real conversations and forcing our folk to say, yes, what do you want, and be as very specific as possible, and then say, if you want to get this, this is how it happens, but it's not going to be a one-way street. And I don't want, and the reason why I'm not trying to get y'all off the hook, But I think the problem is in our community, it's literally 98-2. They ain't doing nothing. And where my deal is, no. You got to put more of this on our community organizations to say, I need y'all to be doing more, because it's easy to scapegoat black politicians. And that's one of my biggest issues. I see on the federal level, CBC ain't doing nothing. I'm like, you have no idea what you're even talking about. And so that happens a lot. And I just think we have the challenge. Look, she a Delta. I saw some alphas earlier. I can't even tell you. Y'all gonna throw y'all signs up. What's that?
Don't do that. Because it's a couple Sigmas in here. Don't do that. It's a couple
no, I'm
Sigmas
just.
in here.
Don't
do that.
I ain't met that many Sigmas under 55. See, you walk right into that show.
This your show, so I'm going to let you have it.
You walk right now.
I'm going to let you have it because it's your show.
No, the ain't what it is. You can't think of a comeback right now. Your brain just froze. And he started thinking, ain't that many of us. He ain't lying.
That's cool.
And you can keep that little okay sign, that little cute little okay sign. But I've even challenged, and look, I've made Divine Nine presidents mad. I'm like, how do you have this level of infrastructure and you're not properly using it? Yeah. We're focused on so much internal stuff and don't nobody outside even know, and they question and we ain't doing nothing. And so that's the part. That's why I prefer to push our community groups and not politicians. I know politicians are doing, and I understand that process, but I also know when you're elected to office, you actually need help.
That's right.
I agree.
And again, as somebody who covers city council and county government, I know what it's like to sit in a meeting and see a whole phalanx of white folks. And I only see black folks if somebody got shot or something like that. And then I'm like, but are y'all going to come back next week? Then next week. And so that's the challenge. So I think we have to reorient our folk to say, I need you in the game after the election.
And that is why I talked about the education of the process. Because here's the other thing. The presidential election is just one election. Yep. There are elections
every year.
Every year, but here's the thing, every 6 months. In Pennsylvania, we got a primary, and then we got a general.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, a lot of times, the things and the issues that people are concerned about, it ain't the president that's going to handle it. So, all of those other things matter. Who's your mayor? Who's your council people? In Pennsylvania, who's running your elections? Because if it wasn't for our city commissioner's office and the fact that we have competent city commissioners, the election in 2020 could have went a totally different way for the whole nation.
Or even after 2020, when the Republicans wanted to go to single-member Supreme Court districts in Pennsylvania.
Yes, they did. We fought back on that.
I know that. I read. I know. My point is,
alphas do.
First of all,
that's what's up.
First of all,
I had to get hold up.
We read. No. We read. Y'all have pictorial. I don't know why you thought you were gonna win that one. I got a book of pictures for you.
It's your show. I'm gonna let you have it.
See, That's like, dang, I gotta come up with another one. See, you can't be loaded with one. You gotta have 3 or 4. You gotta have, right. You had one, and that was your shot. That was it. You see, the captain said, I ain't saying nothing. He like, I ain't saying a word. Smart move. Smart move. But again, that's what I want folks to happen. I do want Bishop to say a few words, because I want to know, how are you challenging your pastoral folk? Let's see, hold up here. Is the camera over here? No.
Nice.
I'm just curious to know, how you challenge your pastoral folk? Because last night, that came up last night, and one of the preachers said, "It's way too many silent pulpits 30 days in." I try to make it easy for you, but that's the easiest question I can throw out to you.
Right. I think that's misinformation. I really do. I think that more pastors are conversating across the country via telephone. I know there's a group of pastors that I meet with basically on a weekly basis when it comes to talking about this election and how we particularly talk to our people about it or try to give information to our people about it. I don't think it is a lot of silent pulpits maybe on Sunday morning, because that's not what we seem to talk about or what we are called to talk about on a Sunday basis. I think the conversation does take place. I have members in my church that are politicians. I have judges and Supreme Court judges that are in my congregation. So that aspect of it is communicated by those who are in those positions. I really don't have time to be figuring out, okay, what are the different nuances of Sharif? Yeah, he just left. I'm just saying, and my brother here, my sister down there, they are engaged in that. They know what that is. So they inform me on what it is, and in turn, I get them to inform the congregation on what it is. And in turn, I also have dialogue with my colleagues.
And are y'all doing constant, so when the election is over, do you have because the church last night, they have a ministry that deals with that after the election, keeping folk informed, this was what's coming up, this was being worked on, this is what you need to be watching out for, stuff like that?
Deacon Wayne Johns, he's my guy that handles all the political issues that come down the pike for the church.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the black church, I feel like, especially without the absence of a national campaign coming in, the infrastructure from a political perspective, in our area, I think has been fairly organized. We have black churches that are having black men, Pastor Corey Johnson in Germantown, Pastor Alan Waller at Enon Tabernacle. They are meeting every week and organizing their men's month. They have a men's month that they did, but now they're organizing every week. They are going to mobilize black men across the city, the northwest section of the city, to make sure that they are poll watchers. Yeah. And what you look for, right? So there you go. I do believe, and look, if you really want to know really about this subject and where I stand on it, I want you to YouTube Pastor Jeremiah Wright. What the hell are you talking about? Because he gives a really good sermon about the black church and Rahm Emanuel in 2015, and I think we need to take a page out of his playbook.
But the two things that you said that people need to understand, you said they are organizing and they mobilizing.
That's correct.
Earlier, when y'all talked about those doing the PPP in the barbershops, what did y'all say? Y'all put that list together, and you organize and you mobilize. It was Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture said, you cannot find a single prominent African-American who made a contribution in the lives of black people who was not involved in an organization. Meaning you cannot do it as a singular individual. And that's so the reason I will never get off on that is because if we are not pushing our people to organize and mobilize, we will be complaining about a whole lot of stuff and that stuff never getting accomplished. But we have to be thinking in those terms.
I also want to add something that the church is doing as well. And I'm glad that
I was about to do the benediction, but go ahead. That was like the summation. I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
I know you are.
But you about to close it out, but go ahead.
Listen, I'm glad I'm a Delta. You're not picking on me that much. But
yeah, we know how y'all are. Here we go.
Why?
Here we go.
There's a whole lot of them in here. So
and that don't mean nothing to me. Alpha still a daddy. Come on.
Can you just go ahead and make your point?
Let me make the point really quickly. Get out of it before I get anybody in trouble.
See, the bishop leave that man alone.
But I will say,
go ahead.
Because churches obviously have to be nonpartisan and can't, impact or violate their 501c3 status, they're doing a series of things in addition to mobilizing individuals to the polls, but they hold voter registration drives, they hold panel discussions. I know Reverend Waller on a weekly basis, I know you're all about weekly things, is he's also a Sigma. He's having...
Probably 58. Go ahead.
He is 60.
He's 60.
Here's a hater.
Mike.
He's a young 60. Young 60. But no, so he's not just having conversations about getting to the polls and registering people, and also registering people for vote by mail, but he's also having online virtual conversations, again, meeting people where they are, if they're into social media, having conversations with regular constituents, everyday voters to talk about what is on their mind, but then also talking not necessarily which candidate, but what policies are showing up on individuals' agendas that align with not just where that individual is there in the moment, but what is the future of this country. So I think it's going to take those kind of conversations, and he does it every 6 months. To your point, we have an election every 6 months, and we have to ensure that we're continuously doing that level of engagement. So again, we're not coming down when there's 27 days left talking about an election. Right. It's been a conversation that we've been having throughout the year, and that's something that's...
So let me remind churches, your status based upon you can't endorse.
That's right.
But you can talk about issues. Yes, you can. And you can say, this is where she stands, this is where he stands. It's a lot of folk who are, and not just churches, a lot of our black organizations, we're not going to lose our status. No, it's endorsing. But you can talk about the issues and where folks stand. So folks don't have to be so hands-off where they say, well, we can't bring up where he stands on this. Yes, you can. Just can't endorse.
Because they practice their freedom of speech.
Oh, come on now. I done seen some of these preachers. I saw one of them right-wing preachers literally said, if you voted for Biden, get out of my church. Yeah. And he still got his IRS status. And so that's just where that is. And so let me thank all of our panelists for the first, second panel. Bishop, thank you so very much. I even appreciate the Sigma. See, you open that door. Folks, tomorrow we're going to be at Lincoln University. We were at Mount Carmel last night. Great conversation. But everybody who's watching and listening, everybody who is here as well, y'all keep hearing me say this here. All I ask you to do is call 10 people. Call 10 people and say, are you registered? And then if they're not ready, if they say they're not registered, get them registered. Then if they say, I am registered, say, double check your status. Go to iwillvote.com. Then after, if you got early voting where you are, you can also be engaged in early voting. But then, if it's on election day, you can also be your own caravan. You can say, I'm going to take 10 people to the polls. All right? I keep telling folks, we are dealing now with margins, small margins. Literally, I saw one piece earlier. This election could be decided in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, by 10 to 20,000 votes in each one of those states. 2016, Donald Trump literally won with 77,000 vote margin in 3 states. That's all it was. So when you start counting the precincts in each state, realize it could be 2 to 3 votes in each precinct that actually determines cumulatively who wins. So don't think for a second the vote does not matter. Again, we're at Lincoln University tomorrow. Look forward to being there. The 14, they had actually hit me up a couple of weeks ago, so we're doing the show with them. Homecoming is this weekend. They got a concert tomorrow night, but when I called the president's office, they were like, hey, they want to do something. I was like, cool, we'll come in, we'll broadcast, we'll talk to them there. I'm not worried about who goes to the concert. If 14 just show up, we have a show with 14 because we'll still be talking to thousands online. Folks, last thing here, every person in this room who's watching listening, use your social media to drive messaging. You may only have 200 followers, but if 100 people with 200 followers all send out messages, you're reaching thousands of people. And so you can go to Kamala Harris's Twitter page, Instagram page. You can grab the video. You can grab the photo, share that. You don't have to do a lot of extra work, but utilize everything at your disposal because I'm telling you, this election does matter. It absolutely matters. And the next president could appoint 2 Supreme Court justices who will likely be on that court for 30, 40, 50 years. I'm just trying to let y'all know this thing is real. Depending upon who wins the U.S. Senate seats, who controls the Senate, who controls the House, and that determines who has power. If y'all want to support the work that we do, folks, I know some of y'all folks who are still analog. It's all good. Y'all still send me check. It's when they send check, money orders. I'm not lying, y'all. I get about 30 a week. It take a little extra time to cash them, but They still work. And I'm telling you, they old school. They like, we ain't trusting no Cash App, Zelle, PayPal. They like, what? I got a P.O. box for this very reason. Y'all can see your money order check, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. I told y'all Cash App is tripping because they changed their rules, which has impacted nonprofits and churches and others, and so we're sorting it out with them. But PayPal is R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV, and of course, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, even in Pennsylvania. So y'all can get your book, get the audio book on Audible. I read it. We got the book. We got the book here. Oh, I picked the photo too of a white man with his arms in front of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. What that means, all his hours. That's why I picked it. And so be sure to get your book, White Fear, folks. That is it. Again, we'll see you at Lincoln tomorrow, and then we're in North Carolina next week for three shows. But we're going to be doing about 6 or 9 stops, so be sure to follow us for that. And then in the coming weeks, we'll be in Michigan, Florida, Milwaukee as well. So a lot of things happening inside of 30 days. Folks, that is it. Again, thank you so very much for us being here. I thank all of y'all for being here as well. Folks, y'all know how I end the show. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?